Pretty satisfied, Patrick Perret, to start this morning from a Team USA standpoint. Is that the best way to put it? Satisfied, maybe not thrilled, but okay right now.
Yeah, I guess so. Not too much happened that I paid attention to. I don't know if I'm watching the end or the very beginning of the high bar finals in men's gymnastics. But I just caught the very end of Simone Biles winning the bronze and probably the last we'll see of her in the Olympics. So that was cool. Good send off.
4:50 this morning, I believe the balance beam competition began, and now at 6:05, already done. And Simone Biles getting the same medal, I believe, in this event that she got in the last Olympics in bronze. It was two Chinese gymnasts, both about 16. Did you say, Patrick?
One was 16. The gold medalist was 16. The silver medalist was 18.
There you go.
And they looked every bit of 16 and 18. They looked so young.
24-year-old Simone Biles gets the bronze medal back in competition. Don't know if it puts necessarily the happy ending on it, but certainly fills out that story.
She looked happy, I will say. Her smiles did not look like she was just smiling for the camera. She looked genuinely happy, I think.
That's a good sign. And I think it could have ended worse, I guess, might be the best way to put that. And Team USA basketball certainly has been worse. They win overnight as well against Spain, 95-81, the final score there. You see Kevin Durant leading the way is what you saw?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 29 points for Kevin Durant. He's now, I think the last game he became the leading scorer in Team USA history, passing Carmelo Anthony, and then had one of the the tweet said top 10 scoring games for a Team USA player. So,
yeah, that sounds right. 29 points. You don't typically see a team that gets a lot of minutes to a lot of guys. One guy scoring that
game.
Yeah. Right. But a good sign for Team USA basketball that way. Looks like it's a relatively good morning for Team USA overall. I watched a little bit of the track and field last night. USC's Wadeline Jonathas, no problem in the 400-meter qualifying events there. And I think those finals are later on today at the track over in Tokyo. So maybe not as notable a morning or overnight session as we had yesterday with the team events with soccer and women's basketball and baseball all in action. But that's the latest update at 6:07 for you from the Olympic standpoint. And the 13-hour time difference continues to lead the way. I think from my standpoint yesterday, it was all about a high school quarterback deciding to join Ohio State early, and Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers, who we have kind of set up to discuss maybe more on this show, more than we've actually done it. A guy who had originally committed to Texas, the number one recruit in the country. You looked up some of those recruiting numbers yesterday, and basically he's thought of as well as any high school quarterback has been thought of. Only Vince Young and Trevor Lawrence. Is that it? The two other guys coming out of high school with as high a numbers or a high of recruiting ranking as Quinn Ewers?
Yeah, it's about as elite as it gets. It's like that tier with Clowney and Robert Kimdicha, I know, was in there, Ernie Sims. And then as quarterbacks go, yeah, it was Vince Young with at least this is according to 24/7 Sports, 1.0 ranking for Vince Young, a perfect score, I guess the perfect route. And then Quinn Ewers and Trevor Lawrence were both .9999s. So just about as good as it gets as a high school recruit.
So the way that it went down is that Quinn Ewers has now decided to forego his senior season of Texas high school football. The Texas High School League, basically, that kind of governs high school athletics there, specifically prohibits someone cashing in on their name, image, and likeness during high school. So the conundrum was, the decision was, play high school football for free or declare early, forego your senior season, and go start making money off name, image, and likeness. Speaking of that, I've seen some Bojangles posts from USC women's basketball players pop up yesterday. I believe touting the new chicken sandwich there. So it is happening. It is very much happening locally. But the idea for Quinn Ewers is a bit complicated in that he says he's not doing it for the money, says the family doesn't need the money, and he's just doing it to get a jump on college. Does have a Gamecock implication as well. His star wide receiver at South Lake Carroll High School has committed to become a Gamecock, and Landon Sampson saw he retweeted Quinn Ewer's relatively lengthy social media statement, just said something to the effect of always be family or something like that. But now we'll have a different high school quarterback throwing him the football this year. And the issue here is this going to become the trend? To me, Patrick, it's easy to jump to that conclusion and overhype things. This guy is, like you mentioned, the exception for high school quarterbacks. Vince Young, the only one ever out of high school to be rated higher than him. He is rated as high as Trevor Lawrence. These guys don't come along very often. But with that being said, there's no doubt the trend with name, image, and likeness, getting paid for that in college, has now started to trickle down, or will start to trickle down, and high school athletes have to keep this in consideration, at least to some degree. So are you concerned at all that we're going to lose not only any kind of purity in college athletics from this standpoint, but now trickling down to high school?
No, not at all. First of all, it's already happening quite a bit in basketball. These kids reclassify all the time and just try and get a jump start on the NBA draft and get a year closer to that money. So they'll graduate early. I don't know who the most recent one to do is, but I know Andrew Wiggins did it. I know some other guys have done it, where Karl Anthony Towns did it when he went to Kentucky, just to get to college a year sooner and make sure they can get that NBA payday as soon as possible. So it's already happening. But for football, yeah, it's not going to happen except for very rare circumstances. The next kid with the name value of a Quinn Ewers nationally is going to be Arch Manning. And he's not going to do that because he's a millionaire already. His family are all millionaires at least, so he's not going to need to do it. But I don't see it being an issue. And if it does, I don't see who it affects. I mean, the kids are already leaving for their spring semester anyway. Almost I would say, of the 25 kids South Carolina's bringing in on average per year, 20 of them are on campus in the winter. Is it that much?
Not quite that much. I would say 15, maybe half. Yeah. 12-ish, so somewhere in there.
If people are complaining that he's not going to go to senior prom and whatnot, I mean, whatever. These kids aren't doing that now anyway. But, yeah, the Quinn Ewers is a very rare circumstance. And, I don't know, maybe the high school leagues adjust because he didn't want to go to Ohio State. It is about the money, but he wanted to be able to make the money and still play high school football this year. And the Texas UIL something interscholastic league, University Interscholastic League, he said, was the one that told him if he stays at South Lake, he can't profit off his image and likeness. So he just decided, okay, I'll bounce early. He would have loved to just get sponsorships. I think ideally he would have gotten the sponsorships as a high schooler and just stayed and won a state championship with all his buddies. But the Texas league vetoed that. So also not everybody's in a position to just graduate early. I know that's a big issue for a lot of recruits too, is just making sure they have all of their courses ready and their grades in order to apply. So it's kind of a perfect storm of things, having the huge name. He was already taking a summer class to just knock it out and graduate early. And it's the first year of the NIL. So yeah, maybe some kids will do this and leave early, but I don't see why that's a problem anyway. I'm not even concerned about the money part of it. I'm just fascinated at how this Ohio State quarterback battle is going to go now, because they've got 2 5-stars and 3 with CJ Stroud, depending on where you look.
So to me, the issue becomes now, well, what do high school leagues across the country do in reaction to what colleges have done? Do they make the adjustment as well? Already several of you want to weigh in on this subject. Neil on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, 803-404-6100. Basketball is much less of a team sport than football, Neil says. The part that bothers me the most is this guy leaving his teammates in their senior season, especially if it's not about the money. Everything in life can't be only about money. What a shallow existence that would be.
It is, though. Money's important for everybody. And for people, when you're in a profession that's only going to take you till, as a quarterback, you can get up to age 40, but that's the last chance you're going to have to make money. Why is it a problem to start making money as soon as possible? And I don't understand why people are upset on other people's behalves who aren't upset to begin with. I don't think if you polled the teammates of Quinn Ewers from high school and said, hey,
your buddy's about to be a millionaire. Would you rather him play with you or be a millionaire and fly you out to Columbus for weekends or whatever, come back and throw big parties for you and whatever? I would want my friend to be making a lot of money rather than, hey, man, this season's really important. It's a lot bigger than you making $1 million. It's just, I don't think his teammates care at all.
803-404-6100. That's where Rick has called us on the Love Chevy phone lines to weigh in this morning as well on this name, image, and likeness and the latest development. Rick, good morning, sir.
Good morning to you. And thanks for having me on the show. I just want to say that I've enjoyed listening to each and every one. This will be my first call in.
Attaboy.
And that name, image, and likeness, it's okay if that's what we come up with. But I'd rather take $1 million and run with it. And I'll leave it to you and listen to you. Right.
Appreciate the phone call, Rick. Up early with us on the Love Chevy phone lines. Yeah, well, that's the honest conversation that I think is easy to overlook or easy to be hypocritical about, right? If any of us at 17 years old had the option to skip your senior year of high school, go to Ohio State on full scholarship, and make a bunch of money, how do you not do that? So the conversation becomes more to me, not did he make the right move, did he not make the right move, are you mad at him for making this move? It becomes about the system, Patrick. Is this system going to be set up in the best way possible moving forward? Because Quinn Ewers is an exception for sure. He is a fantastic quarterback. But like you mentioned, Arch Manning, the next fantastic quarterback after him. After Arch Manning, there'll be another fantastic quarterback. Is the system going to be set up in the correct way? Do high school athletics need to make an adjustment to where they're going to be able to keep high school seniors now from doing this? You're going to be able to see high school seniors play that last year, or is everyone in this position going to do what human nature seems to dictate here and go ahead and jump and cash in and hit college early? Because that's part of another interesting conversation, in my opinion. Steve Spurrier, I think, having the experience of Stephen Garcia and others. Stephen Garcia came to South Carolina early on. He actually played his senior season, but came a semester early. So that used to be the deal, right? I mean, that's much more of the rule here, instead of skipping your entire senior season, right? That you play your senior season of football, you graduate a semester early, that gets you spring football. And having seen Stephen Garcia come to campus a semester early, get in some trouble, it didn't work out well for him there from a preparation standpoint. I think that gave Steve Spurrier pause about saying, yeah, everybody needs to come to campus early. You need to start your college career as soon as possible, because Will Muschamp was that guy, right? He was that guy who it wasn't much of a conversation or consideration. If you can come to college early, do it. Mr. Preparation and Will Muschamp was all about preparing for college and doing it on campus. You get in the college strength program, you get on campus, you start to integrate into college life. What's not good about that? Well, the other part of the argument is, hey man, you're robbing an 18-year-old of an experience that cannot be repeated. It can't be, I don't even know the exact word to say there, but it can't be duplicated, I guess is the right word. And is that what we want to do with our system of athletics, I guess is the question. And Patrick is seen to certainly be on the side of who cares, let these kids do what they want to do.
Yeah, I just think it should be up to the parents and the kid, whatever they want to do. I mean, if they want to leave early, that's fine. Like, lots of people do it. We're watching the Olympics right now. I'm watching gymnastics, and I bet you all of the 18-year-olds that are out here competing for the USA in gymnastics or even swimming. I had a girl from my neighborhood who was a swimmer trying to make the Olympics and whatnot. She didn't go to high school. Like, all these people give up on high school. So why are we now all of a sudden so concerned about these kids losing out on their senior year of football just because it's football? I mean, they're going to do what they want to do. If they want to get a start on college, get some of their courses out of the way, it should be up to the university and the football program to make sure they're taken care of and watched over and they have all the resources they need. But I don't know why we feel the need to say this is wrong. I mean, kids that do it all the time. Like, if a kid's like a skateboarder or something, he's going to go get his GED and go out on the skateboarding tour. I heard some interviews of, I can't remember the kid's name, but one of the guys that competed for Team USA was like, yeah, I got my GED when I was a sophomore, so I could go out on the X Games tour. And like, there's so many things that in other walks of life, kids are already doing this, but now that it's football, we're just changing the rules and pretending like it's the end of the world.
Well, they don't want to play high school football for their senior year. Let them go to college. Unless you're a huge South Lake Carroll fan, I don't see how this Quinn Ewers thing affects you at all.
There is a difference, though, between individual sports and team sports. And then the system being set up, because this is a new rule in college. This is just happening, where football players can cash in on the name, image, and likeness. So now the question becomes, all right, how do high school rules adjust, if at all? Because several more, if you weigh it in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, Billy says, I see you, young man. Get out there, make that money. The team will understand, and if they're really your friends. And he also wanted to add that he's looking forward to Shane Beamer getting his team going. Richard, on the other side of this thing, money is ruining everything. There aren't any rules to anything anymore. It kills the sport for fans because only loyalty for athletes is to the dollar, and now it's trickling down to high school. Ridiculous. Well, Richard, if you're thinking that there aren't any rules to anything anymore, well, that's why Quinn Ewers had to do this. Because the rule in Texas high school football is that he can't play and make money at the same time off his name, image, and likeness for play. So if you're saying it's killing college football, okay, but you might want to give it a season, man. John from Somerville weighing in with Muschamp's track record. I don't think I'd listen to that. Good point, John. Good point. 803-404.
Ryan Day has got a pretty good track record.
6100 is the number into the program. But again, we've never seen this specific situation. You would agree that Quinn Ewers isn't doing this if name, image, likeness isn't
We actually
concerned.
did see this. Well, no, we actually did see this last year with Tony Grimes from North Carolina, who was a 5-star corner and should have been a freshman this year, but because of COVID canceling the season, he decided, all right, I'm going to graduate right now, and I'm going to roll in North Carolina a year early. We didn't do it because of NIL, but we have seen kids go into college football a year early
Just last year, and he played right away. He played as a 17-year-old freshman.
Sure, but that one, again, because his high school season was going to be canceled,
So what is our concern? That he's too young and he's going to get hurt, or just that he doesn't value the high school experience, or that he's doing it because of money? Like, I don't get what the concern is.
I think the concern is what's to keep all big-time high school football seniors from doing this moving forward. Because that human nature, that thing that we're all admitting, that we would do it, absolutely we would do it. Why wouldn't you do it? So the question is, do you need to change the system? Does high school football need to change and become what college football has become with name, image, and likeness and allow this? And
There's
then,
only going to be a couple of these every year.
agreed.
Maybe one every year. Maybe some years there's not even a kid who's big enough to go leave a year early and play. I mean, and if he's an offensive lineman, he's not going to have that option because teams are going to want to bulk him up first anyway. So if it's a physical thing, I mean, only quarterbacks are really going to be able to do this, and then maybe some skill position players.
I've seen some big-time high school running backs, man, that could certainly run the football as a high school senior in college football.
And I would support that too, because you only have so many carries. Like, that's the whole thing about running backs, is like, let's get out of college as soon as possible and get to that second contract as soon as we can and as early as we can, because they're not going to pay you after that. So any kid that wants to jumpstart their chances to make money, I think we should support it.
Chris says, need to make it while they can. Never know what the future holds. He hits us up on the Facebook Live stream. YouTube Live up and rolling as well. Casey says, is the prom roll that special? That's a good point. Mine wasn't.
Well, it's not in football season either. We can find it.
Like I mentioned, I think on the news show yesterday, just to hold your own prom, man. If you make enough money, you can just throw your own deal. Twitter also, you can find us at 1075 The Game, the video stream version of the program. No matter how you're listening to us, we appreciate it. I'm glad you're making us part of your Tuesday morning. Bill Gunter with the morning off. He'll be off again tomorrow. Patrick Collette doing more than a serviceable job filling in for Bill this morning. Jen Jensen is pressing the buttons and producing back in the Heritage Chevrolet Studios in downtown Columbia. Just getting going here on a Tuesday morning. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
This is Gamecock Basketball Martin, and you're listening to 107.5 The Game. WNK.
All right, we're about to head to, about to head to PKs. Brazil and Mexico. It looks like.
What was that?
Looks like Brazil and Mexico are about to head to PKs in 5 minutes in the semifinals.
Women or men?
Man. That would be intense. Anyone that does this high bar exercise in gymnastics as well is they have to have shoulder problems as they get old, right?
Have to have what problems?
Shoulder problems.
Oh, I don't know, man.
I mean, they're flipping through, and all of their weight is just adding up, and the pressure when they catch the bar with all that force, it looks like their arm should just be pulled off. It has to have your shoulders. Do you see Steph Curry's contract?
200 plus, I saw.
215. But did you see how many years?
The 4?
Yeah. It's an average of $53 million a year.
I think Trae Young is Trae Young's a 5-year deal?
Yeah. So his is going to max out at like in the 40s. Steph is the largest contract I've ever seen in professional sports. I don't know if he's the first. Maybe LeBron's going to get there at the end of his contract, but I've never seen anybody get top 50. That is absurd.
Holy crap. Trae Young, guess how much? So it's up to $207 million. Guess how much is guaranteed?
I don't know how the NBA does that. It's not all guaranteed?
172.
Wow.
Wow.
Worked up to $207
You know, him recently playing in some kind of.
I think that's. So that's the. Yeah, so that's the max rookie deal, I think, because that's what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander got as well.
Right.
So I guess I assume Trae Young's made an All-Star team or something then, or an All-NBA team or All-Rookie team or something.
Yeah.
That's how they are allowed to offer more.
It's crazy.
There's a lot of money went out yesterday, first day NBA free agency.
Yep.
$90 million for Duncan Robinson, who doesn't even move off the three-point line.
But I saw like the host of whatever podcast, Duncan Robinson, agrees to a $90 million deal.
I think he's now the richest player or richest undrafted player ever.
Yeah. Saw that.
One minute of stoppage time, and we're headed to PKs. Mexico is laying on the ground right now. They won PKs.
Shocking.
So they got a good, experienced goalie.
Saw a great tweet saying something about how soccer players should enter diving at the Olympics.
Excellent. PKs are a great way to start off the morning.
Oh, whoa. The Gasol brothers played?
Yeah.
I get it that Mark played, but Powell played, but neither one of them even scored. Ouch.
Did they play? Like they were on the court rather than just on the team? Because Powell's 41.
I don't have the box in front of me. I don't know.
The international game suits them for sure.
Oh, I got the box right here. Yeah, Pau Gasol played 6 minutes. Mark played 10.
The Serbians are going to be tough to beat.
Tuesday morning, I'm going to miss live sports to update you on when the Olympics is over, come this time next week, but maybe not as we roll closer and closer to football season, and we'll have exhibition NFL game for you on Thursday night right here on 107.5 Game, the Hall of Fame game, Cowboys and Steelers. But this morning, if you're just waking up, need to know that Simone Biles did get back in the medal count for U.S. gymnastics, the balance beam, the final event there for the women, and she ends up with the bronze medal there. A couple of Chinese gymnasts take gold and silver, but Simone Biles fighting through the mental issues, the mental health issues that kept her out of most of this Olympics, and earning a medal to go out with a relatively happy story. I've mentioned it multiple times how I thought that would be kind of best case scenario in this situation. Will be only, it's kind of gold or bust for Team USA in a lot of events, and men's basketball is certainly one of those. Good news for Team USA there. Strong second half helps Durant and company pull away from Spain, 95-81. And Durant leading the way with 29 points, looking to become just the second American man to win 3 gold medals, and has already passed the other guy that's done it, Carmelo Anthony, as the Team USA all-time leading scorer, 29 points in this ball game. A lot of those coming in the third quarter. And Team USA looking more like I think we expect Team USA to look, with 52 points in the second half and a 14-point win against the Spain team led by Ricky Rubio that still had Pau Gasol on it. I was reading this thing and had to go into the box score just to see he was 41, Patrick. I mean, when you played with Michael Jordan back in the day, played with LeBron James of the Lakers, played 6 minutes, got 3 rebounds, did not score, but appears will probably be one of his last games of all time. His brother Mark played as well, says he's coming back to the Lakers for another season. And it was a tricky situation for most of these guys because free agency, huge night in the NBA last night. Greg Popovich, a big part of that, obviously, with San Antonio Spurs. They had a bunch of cap space, and so they were making moves. I don't know if he slept overnight or not, and the dollar amounts coming out last night just staggering in so many ways. And it was Steph Curry's monster deal that really kind of grabbed your attention there, Patrick. Trae Young grabbed mine. More than $200 million for a 5-year deal for a guy who's still relatively young. Obviously, tremendous player, and got the Hawks to the semifinals last year. But it's Steph Curry going to make even more than that. So it's $172 million guaranteed, I think, for Trae Young, but a 5-year deal worth up to $207 million. So about $40+ million per year. Steph Curry doing that one better at about $50 million a year is what you've seen, right?
Yeah, it's $215 million over 4 years. So I assume that'll escalate because that's how all these contracts work. So I assume Trae Young will probably be making in the low 30s in the first year of his deal and then be up in the mid 40s by the end of it. But yeah, the average value of what Steph's 4-year deal is going to be is $53 million, which is just absolutely ridiculous. I thought it was crazy when the last Supermax the last NBA CBA got negotiated, and the Supermax was going to be up in the 40s. That was the first time I had seen the $40 million a year figure, and now Steph has just taken it to the next level with a $50 million a year, and the money is getting out of control. It's unbelievable what these guys are making.
I thought Lonzo Ball was a bust in the NBA. Clearly, I'm a dummy. He just signed a deal for $85 million. And Alex Caruso signed a $37 million deal. Alex Caruso is the guy from Texas A&M that we talked about that his sister was getting married while they're in the bubble, and he decided not to go to the wedding because they're on the NBA finals. They're on the championship run. They ended up winning the championship and the whole thing. So he's getting paid $47 million to go to the Bulls, who also get Lonzo Ball. So he's gonna be a backup, right? Alex,
I don't know
Lonzo Ball.
I don't know what the Bulls are doing. First of all, I think Lonzo is a good player. I think he's underrated a little bit, but apparently not because he's getting over $20 million a year now. I didn't think he was that good. I was hoping the Wizards would sign him for like a $10 to $15 million a year deal. I didn't realize people were that high on him. But yeah, to sign him, then Caruso, they drafted Ayo Dosunmu from Illinois, and they already have Kobe White, the kid from UNC a couple years ago. So I don't know why they just keep spending all of their money and all of their assets on point guards. At a certain point, you have enough point guards. I don't understand what they're doing. The Bulls low-key have been one of the worst-run organizations of the past since whenever Jordan left, because they have not been good other than Derrick Rose carrying them when he had his MVP season.
That last dance plan.
Joakim Noah was good there too with Derrick Rose, but that was it.
So my relationship with the NBA is so close. Last night when I read that headline, Lonzo Ball was like, wait a second. It says he's with the Pelicans. I thought he was with the Hornets. And I was like, oh, LaMelo. Got it. He's the rookie of the year, not Lonzo Ball, who didn't last with the Lakers under the high expectations, and now.
And also the Pelicans used to be the Hornets.
Yeah, it's true. Another very confusing part of all that for an old guy like me who doesn't watch much NBA. But notable this morning, not because of our tremendously close relationship with NBA and covering it each and every day, just for the massive amounts of money. Rich says, NBA talk? Really? And in the offseason, no less? Hey, man, when there are more than $200 million deals being signed, it is certainly worth a mention this morning, especially coming off the Team USA win against Spain last night to get to the semifinals.
Yeah, I didn't watch ESPN at all yesterday, but I know that in years past they've had like the money clock, basically like adding up all the money and deals that's signed, and it's always like 2 hours into NBA free agency and over $1 billion have been given out in contracts. The money is ludicrous these days. If you're picking between football and basketball and you pick football, you're doing it wrong at this point.
Wow. From the college football standpoint, it was Quinn Ewers news yesterday that really headlined everything. The high school quarterback out of South Lake Carroll in Texas, going to senior season, going to Ohio State, reportedly has a seven-figure deal or 7 figures in deals lined up. No more details on that have been released or nothing out there publicly at this point. Nick Saban also, if we're talking about contracts being released, his new deal going to average, I think, more than $10 million per year. Now, that one is something I understand. How in sports is Lonzo Ball worth twice per year what Nick Saban is worth? That's basically what we just said, right? Lonzo Ball is going to make more than about $20 million a year. Nick Saban will make $8.7 million this year, and it will continue to go up by $400,000 annually over the lifetime of contract that I believe was like 42 pages long. I retweeted the Alabama, I think it was like a Board of Trustees meeting agenda, and it was about contracts. And let's see, it says some contracts are more complicated than others. The consideration of compensation arrangement starts on page 7 for Nick Saban's contract, and the next one, the baseball coaches, starts on page 49. That baseball contract is 3 pages long, as are most of these things, but Nick Saban's is 42 pages long. It shows you the complicated nature of all that.
It is crazy when you start comparing him to what the athletes are making, because he's making like second or third guy off the bench in the NBA money. If you put it in the NFL, he's a backup quarterback or a middle of the road running back. I mean, and he's probably, his hours are double whatever those guys are doing too. It's crazy money, $10 million a year, but when you start comparing it to what the players are making, it's nuts.
And Todd, of course, needed to weigh in about Nick Saban's extension through 2029 and the pay increase. I guess the question there becomes, Patrick, how long do you think Nick Saban coaches? You think he makes it through 2029? He's about to turn 70. Again, will become just the second 70-year-old head coach in the SEC. Steve Spurrier was the first. And, that season when he was 70 is the one that he didn't make it through the entire season.
Maybe he'll, whenever the 12-team playoff starts, that's when he'll decide to hang it up. I don't think he'll make it to 2029. So that would put him at 78. So you said?
Yeah, that math works out, I believe.
Right. Things are changing so quickly. I don't know if he wants to continue to evolve, but that is what's the most impressive about him, is that how seamlessly he was able to evolve and just move right into the new age of college football with high-powered offense. And it was really a 2-year deal between running the ball and playing good defense and winning 17 to 10 games or 9 to 6 games. I guess they lost that game, but still played in those types of games, to putting up 50 points a week.
Evolving for sure, as is college football now, with Texas and Oklahoma set to come to the SEC. Texas, the school president in front of lawmakers yesterday. Texas senators taking some shots. In on those details as we continue to roll on this morning. 803-404-6100 if you would like to join. Bill Gunter with the morning off. Tim Hill, Patrick Perrette, and with you though here. It's the early game. It's 107.5. About Chris, just want to go straight to the Cowboys.
Well, playing 2 days, right? I don't know what's going on there.
Me with the feedback over here. Thanks.
Yeah, I don't know. It's better now. I want to know who we're going to see on Thursday. I can't imagine that Dak is putting pads on. Are the Hall of Fame speeches tomorrow?
What's that?
When is the Hall of Fame enshrinement?
I think they usually do it on Saturday, don't they?
Oh, after the game? Yeah, August 8th. Is that Saturday?
Yep.
I'll actually watch this one.
Oh, yeah? From who? Megatron?
Maybe Peyton, Megatron, Charles Woodson. I remember all those players' careers. But they're limiting the speeches. They're limiting the speeches to between 6 and 8 minutes. So I don't need to hear anybody drone on for half an hour this time.
I think they always say that, and then
No, they don't. There's never been a
Really?
limit, but they're inducting 2 classes, so they said they're going to actually
That makes
play them off if they're talking too long, like the Oscars.
good luck. Good luck with that. Football players don't take too kindly to that, especially
No.
large egos in their ego crowning moment.
No, but they're all at least very aware of it because I heard Peyton say it's not going to be easy to keep this down, but I've got my speech down. And Megatron, I heard say I'm happy about this because I don't like to be long-winded anyway.
He's not a big talker.
No.
Donnie Shell as well. Nice. Carlton always representing South Carolina State. So, yeah, Israel Mukwamo should get in. Big day for J.C. Horn yesterday in Panthers camp.
Is Rico Dowdle still on the Cowboys?
I would think so. Yeah, you should see a bunch of him, I would imagine.
Yep, he is. Yeah, he'll be out there. I will be excited to see a healthy dose of Dwayne Haskins for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Should see a bunch of them.
See a bunch of them. I hate to pull against people, but I hope he does not look good. Are there any Gamecocks on the Steelers?
What was
So are there any Gamecocks on the Steelers?
nothing?
Can't think of any.
Let's check that roster. The last one might have been Wesley Saunders.
We're heading back in.
Jen, can we play that Texas lawmaker audio?
Oh, we won't see him,
Nah.
Tim. We won't see him, but Melvin Ingram did sign with the Steelers.
Oh, wow.
He definitely won't
don't have it
play.
Yet. I just got logged back in.
Is that a no on the audio, Jen?
Yeah, I don't have it yet. I've just got logged back in. Crap. You guys are up.
So what was exactly going down in Texas yesterday? It really read like a soap opera that I saw on social media. A picture popped out, and it was the Texas president. And behind him, in some sort of meeting room, was Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby just looking massively unhappy. It was a really, I mean, you couldn't have staged this picture any better, knowing that Bowlesby recently just sent the cease and desist letter to ESPN accusing them of working behind the scenes to basically dismantle the Big 12. Now, yesterday he said that we've agreed to not discuss this publicly. It's in neither party's best interest to do so. Well, everybody knew that to begin with. You just kind of had to throw a temper tantrum, and that's where it looks like it's going to end. But so this deal was a committee of Texas senators hearing testimony from not just University of Texas leaders, but Baylor, TCU, and Texas Tech on what conference realignment in the Big 12, basically the economic implications of this thing. And the headline is basically that these conversations started in the spring. That's the headline I took away from it, that the University of Texas president, Jay Hartzell, was asked, when did you start having these conversations? And he had to admit that it happened in the spring, I think. And then it was basically grandstanding, political grandstanding. Like one of the senators who I think used to work at TCU was just taking shots, saying, now you're going to lose to Alabama instead of TCU, where you're
3-7 against the Horned Frogs.
There you go.
Are there not more important things to deal with?
They're actually 2-7 against the Horned Frogs. Well, again, this comes down to money, and these other schools are saying they're basically going to get now half of the money that they have been getting out of their Big 12 deal. And when you're talking about $35 million instead of $70 million, that's a big deal. I guess they have been getting 35, and now it'll be more like 18, I think, something like that from the Big 12. I guess the exact media part of that is a little bit less. But Patrick, this is just classic politics. I think you capitalize on a hot topic and you figure out a way to get your name in the headlines, and then you're seen like the specific senator from Texas, the state senator there, seen as the TCU hero now. Lois Kolkhorst is her name, I believe. I'll let you hear exactly what she had to say to the president there. It doesn't sound quite as good as it reads, in my opinion, but I've retweeted it on Twitter as well. You want to see the exact deal. I don't know what they're doing here. To me, it's just what, unfortunately, most of politics is from my eye, is that you start to make some headlines and you try to cash in, and very little is done in actuality, because this thing's done. Texas and Oklahoma are going to the SEC. You can complain about it all you want to, rest of the Big 12, but it doesn't, to me, look like you're going to be stopping anything. And instead of doing that, the shocking part to me is that Bob Bowlesby comes out and says, yeah, he hasn't talked to anybody else about joining the conference. What are you doing? That is your job, right? That should be your job, is to figure out how to keep this thing together or how to move forward, because the ship has sailed on your two big boys. They're done. The deal is done. 2025, everyone knew those media rights deals were coming up. You had to figure it out. Didn't figure it out, and now it's just a big mess in Texas. And when the politicians get involved, that's typically never a good sign for sports, Patrick.
No, it's just this whole thing has gotten to the point of now it's annoying. Now you guys need to just suck it up and move on. Like, so Bowlesby's just saying, I'm not looking at bringing other teams to this conference because I haven't given up on the fact that Texas and Oklahoma are going to be with us. Dude, give up. It's over. Everyone's agreed to it. Stop whining and just move forward, or else your job is going to be gone. Just take your severance package and go.
Not everyone's agreed to it. Certainly not Texas, not those that weren't asked, right? TCU, Texas Tech, Baylor, everybody in Texas, basically Oklahoma State, throw them in there as well. It's everybody that's going to get hit. And when the TV contract would take a 50% hit, I mean, that's the big part of this, that I think that's why politicians raise their hand, or why the schools could come to the politicians and say, hey, you need to help us out. The economic impact is real, the Baylor president or AD is saying.
What are they asking for, though?
Yeah, good question.
Like, there's nothing they can do, right? Other than just use this as a good time to get TV time and quotes and ESPN.
I guess they can try to block this, right? And try to make up laws, or try to come up with some law on the books there and point to it and say, hey, this is why Texas and Oklahoma should not go to the SEC. I mean, basically they're saying it's kind of like that Oklahoma State original accusation that it's bad for the state of Oklahoma. I think now the Texas lawmakers are getting on board with this. The more pertinent on-field news from the SEC yesterday was the LSU quarterback, Miles Brennan, out with a bit of a freak injury last year to an abdominal deal. This year, it's now his left arm, non-throwing arm, that he broke and will have surgery on. It's out indefinitely. And all of a sudden, that stacked quarterback room at LSU that did include TJ Finley as the third string guy behind, who is it? Brad Johnson's kid, Max, right? And a guy that just lit the world on fire in 2.5 games last year. I think is all Miles Brennan played, maybe 3, where he threw for 370 yards per game. Now it's down to just Max Johnson and a talented freshman kid as well in the LSU quarterback room. But will be interesting to see if Miles Brennan ever gets back on the field, in my opinion, at LSU now after another setback. Disappointing for him, and it just shows you, man, how when you think you have a bunch of depth in the SEC, sometimes that you're one injury away from going on the other side of things. That's what it shows me anyway, Patrick.
Yeah, it's a bummer for Miles Brennan because he bided his time too. He could have transferred when Burrow came to LSU, but he decided to stick it out and wait for his chance. He got it, started off really well last year, got hurt, and now just another injury is going to hamper it. I hate it for him because he's, by all accounts, a good kid too.
Hour number 2 coming up here on the early game.
This is Gamecock Athletics Director Ray Tent, and you're listening.
Oh, Chris, nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going to happen with Big 12. Sure doesn't look like it's going to survive to me.
Have you seen a full explanation of what's the difference between the ROC and just Russia?
No. I'm
Like,
not
it's just,
one, haven't searched one out.
they're just not playing the Russian national anthem or raising the Russian flag, and that's their punishment. But all of the Russian athletes are still allowed to go compete, and we all know that they're Russian.
I mean, that pretty much sums it up. Morning, Anthony. Give you a pass for missing the first hour, I guess.
Apparently, these gold medals are not pure gold either.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, I saw that they were worth like $800.
Yeah, they haven't been for a long time, have they?
I guess not. I don't know. Is it there just not enough gold in the world? I don't know how much gold there is.
Well, when the price of gold is, what is it, like $1,000 an ounce or $1,400 an ounce or something? Yeah, they could get pricey.
What's the price of bronze per ounce?
Just went up after Simone Biles got one.
You're supposed to be buying silver, right? I always see on news channels people pitching you to buy silver.
Gold as well.
What do you do with it when you've got just a gold bar?
Wave it. Bury it in the.
Put it in a safe and you've just got a gold bar sitting there?
See this kid from Ridgeview, offered by North Carolina, Duke, Florida State.
Basketball? Football?
No, basketball.
How old is he?
Class 2023. So that means what? He is a junior? I guess just played in his NBPA top 100 game. Played well.
What's his name?
Gregory Jackson. He might go by GG.
GG Jackson, center, number 26 player in the ESPN college basketball rankings.
See, now this just makes the start of this article is 60 of the nation's best prospects gathered in Orlando for the NBPA Top 100 camp. Numbers don't mean anything.
Top 60 doesn't sound good.
Unbelievable. I mean, they put out 100 invites and only 60 showed up.
He's number 34 on 24/7.
Attaboy, Anthony. I should have known. My apologies. Doubted the first hour attendance. Let's see. How do we quiz Anthony to see if he is correct on that?
Oh,
How can he prove it to us, Patrick, that he listened to the first hour on radio?
What do we talk about? Talk about quitting yours. Did we say anything fun in that?
you said about Olympics, but he could have read that.
Did we talk about a Special Olympic event? Any Special Olympic events?
I don't think that's Raise that.
I zoned out. I didn't even watch the Brazil PKs.
That means you were in the show. It's a good thing.
Yeah. I think Brazil won.
Greg, tell us about Julian Phillips here. And you're all about a top 10 recruiting list now. It's a bad rabbit hole to be. It's a bad place to be, man.
Guess we're not going to get him.
All right, Anthony, the test about hour number 1. What NBA player making absurd money stuck out most in our conversation? That is your question.
Looks like Julian Phillips is a basketball player from Blythewood.
Oh yeah, interesting. And is he a top 100 guy too?
He's a power forward. He is number 25 nationally.
Wow. And so his top 10, you got it in front of you. Is it all out of state?
Top 25 includes LSU, Alabama, Kansas, Florida, Florida State, Tennessee, UCLA, Virginia, Southern Cal, and Clemson.
Ooh, except that last one. Yeah. So, Craig, you can focus on Julian Phillips, or you can focus on G.G. Jackson. And it's just not. It's not just Frank, man. It sounds like Phillips wants to get out of town. How much you can't fight that fight. I wanted to get out of town to go to college.
Yeah, I would not have gone to USC if I was from Columbia. Wouldn't have done it.
I think the fact that they're in the mix for the Ridgeview kid, and they're not both ruling Carolina out, might be progress there from the way things have gone in the past.
I always assumed I was going to be a Terp until I got into high school and realized the last thing I want to do is go to college right here.
Do you say a twerp?
No, Terrapin.
I know.
That is, they do hear that a lot though.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Such an odd mascot.
They're kind of intimidating. They're very slow though. I don't think I'd be really terrified of a terrapin. It's unique though. I like that it's unique.
Yeah. We're in the intro.
Nothing worse than tigers. There's a million tigers.
Exactly.
Way too many tigers.
You're up.
Cool Care Heating and Air text line always entertains me. Didn't see this one coming. Butch, 7:08 a.m. Tim, Bentley quit on his high school team, but you didn't object to that? Question mark. Butch. Thank you, Butch, for the question. To start us off here in hour number 2, I'm assuming Butch is referring to the story that has gotten a ton of national attention, and rightly so, because Quinn Ewers is the #1 recruit in the country from South Lake Carroll High School in Texas. Originally committed to Texas. When Tom Herman and company exited, he decommitted and then committed to Ohio State, and now is joining Ohio State a year early instead of playing a senior season in high school football. The massive difference in the Jake Bentley situation, which was how many years ago now, Patrick? His first college season was 2016. Is that correct? Or 2015? So long ago.
I think it's 15.
2015.
Yeah.
I think you're right. As he's still in college. Massive difference there is, well, Will Muschamp did hire Bobby Bentley that season. And so not only was his dad moving from where he was living over in Auburn as an analyst, and Opelika High School was where Jake Bentley was going, but I think they had kind of let it know that was a plan to at least have the option to leave high school a year early at that point. But yeah, Jake Bentley, and that was something that irked a lot of people. So left high school a year early, and that was always part of his story at South Carolina for sure. But no, I had no problem with Jake Bentley leaving high school a year early. I got no problem with Quinn Ewers doing it a year early, especially knowing now the huge difference in the two stories is that name, image, and likeness can now be cashed in on in college football. And this kid Ewers, who is one of the top 3 rated high school quarterbacks of all time, or since 24/7 Sports at least has been evaluating quarterbacks back to Vince Young days. I think Vince Young is the only perfect quarterback prospect coming out of high school. Patrick, you've seen, you've done the research. Trevor Lawrence was 1/1000th of a percentage point off at 0.99, I think is how they did it. Is that correct?
4.9. So what is that? 100,000?
Oh, sorry, that's a 1/10,000th, I believe. If I nerded out with the decimal points, and that's what Ewers is rated. Basically the same as Trevor Lawrence coming out of high school. So absolutely have zero problem with a guy who reportedly has a 7-figure deal lined up, jumping from high school to college a year early. I got no problem with anyone going on their own path. I think, Patrick, that's kind of your point, is that Ewers is such an exception right now. There is no reason to overhype this story and assume that it's going to happen all over the place or be rampant in high school football. I think where I'm at with this story is, what does high school football do now because of college making the adjustment to its rules in name, image, and likeness? Because the Texas high school rule, university independent league out there, university interscholastic league, I think is what they call the UIL, that rules over high school athletics in Texas, does have a specific rule that says you can't get paid for your name, image, likeness, and play. It's I guess we have to call it an old school rule now. An old school rule that you can't get paid and play at the same time. So the question becomes, do we see high school sports making the same adjustment that college sports has made? And my first question is, why not? Why not? Again, Patrick, you made the point. What? The skateboarding gold medalists in the Olympics were 13 years old?
Yeah, on the women's side.
I think both of them. I think both the male and female, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
The point is that there have been really, really athletes at young ages for a long, long time. And in other more individual sports, they've always made their money early. Jennifer Capriati, I think, was 14 when she turned pro in tennis back in the day. I mean, this is 24 years old, Simone Biles is, and she considers herself the grandmother of Team USA. She did win the bronze medal this morning, by the way, over in Tokyo, which wasn't morning, and 13-hour time difference. Bronze medal in the balance beam, so that story does have a bit of a happy ending. But we're on this college football story, which also becomes a high school football story. And if you're going to tell me that then it's going to be all about the money in high school and it will get dirty and there will be recruiting and the whole thing, hey, if you've ever followed football at that level, you understand that it's been that way for a long time. And private schools have always been accused of plucking guys from public schools, and then certain public schools are always accused of recruiting guys over because they have a better football program, and then you go live with a relative or you put their address down on your application and you say you live in that school district, but you really are only doing it for, that's happened for a long, long time. So from my standpoint, why would you ever let a kid, if he has value to a company, to represent them name, image, likeness wise? I got no problem with it. Capitalism, finance. I think we have to make the adjustment when it comes to sports. I mean, are you going to tell me right now? I guess the argument would be that then it's all about the money and it will be the end of pure sports as we know it. I don't think there's that much money or that much value for kids at that young age to companies to make it all just go to pot. I don't see that happening, and that's just never my natural reaction to a change like that. Patrick, what's your thoughts? What would be the downside? Why would you argue against high schools doing what colleges have now done?
I don't have a totally strong feeling on that either way. If the high school has decided that we want to keep this free of all money, but just say if you want to graduate early, feel free. We have no ill will. We wish you the best. If you want to go start school a year early, the few kids every year that are able to do that can go ahead and do it. I wouldn't carry the way. I would think that the argument would be, I guess it could get cloudy if, someone like a Quinn Ewers or an Arch Manning is uncommitted as a junior or whatever, and all of the money that's coming in is coming from Clemson, South Carolina, or Columbus, Ohio, or Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and it's just straight bribery. That could be dangerous. I don't know how you can legislate to make sure that doesn't happen, but will a high school junior could feasibly a year ago could Gunnar Stockton have been on billboards in Columbia and just pocketing money from wherever he's from in Georgia?
Yeah,
absolutely. Is that a problem? I don't know. I wouldn't hate it either way if high school just said, yeah, sorry, we're not allowing you to make money as high schoolers. If you want to leave early, you have every right to do that, and we would not begrudge it. We will help you get your coursework out of the way. But if they want to let them make money, I mean, it's a free market. It's a capitalist country. Whatever, make your money. I will never have a problem with somebody using their image and skills to make money. I just don't see why it's an issue.
But here would be the workaround there, right? You just sit out the season. You just play 7-on-7, right? That's what's going to happen. I mean, when you already have a guy jumping and completely not playing his senior season in Texas at one of the most tradition-rich and perennial powerhouse programs in all of high school football at South Lake Carroll. To me, the power that high school football has over this is slipping away right before our eyes. The lure of being the man in Texas high school football, which is being the man in high school football, the number one recruit in the country, when you can make 7 figures or anywhere close to that. It doesn't pick, right? And let me be very clear, I don't begrudge anyone for going and making life-changing money, because I think it's completely hypocritical when you go to college for a foundation to get a career going and to make money and the whole thing, that you can look over somebody else who is poised to make a ton of money based off of hard work and talent that they have in a specific area and tell them that they can't do it, because it's not right.
Especially the argument we heard this morning was football is all about the brotherhood you build with your teammates. Like, okay, well, he's going to play for another team and he will build that same rapport and brotherhood with a new team. I just don't see how in principle it's any different than leaving college after your junior year to go to the NFL. So if you have a problem with the high school kid going to college a year early, then you probably have a problem with the college kid leaving a year early to go to the draft, in which case I just have a fundamental disagreement with every level of that argument.
Patrick, the problem could be that donors, boosters at specific schools will be throwing money at kids in high school. And they've always done that, right? We know it's always happened. We just haven't seen it happen publicly. And to get that out in the open, I got no problem with it. Shine a light on it. Let's see who's paying what, and then how much they got. How deep are the pockets? How long is it going to last? And then how do other schools make the adjustment?
Yeah, I can see if like Richland County Schools decided the last thing we need is these businessmen from all over the country coming into our school, waiting outside to talk to the star quarterback and whatever. Like, you can just want to rid yourself of all of that drama and say there's no money whatsoever allowed to exchange hands. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. The younger the kids get, the more I have issues with it. But as far as paying the college athletes go, the reason I don't have a single issue is they're 18 years old. They're adults as far as the law is concerned. They can do whatever they want. But if we start talking about the star quarterback who started his sophomore year in high school and he's already getting hollered at for endorsements, that's a little strange.
Look,
it just makes me feel weird thinking about that.
I've always thought it's weird to charge money to go see a game, and yet the people play don't get paid any of the money. You ever thought that's weird? I mean, shouldn't that be the rule? If you want to keep the players from making money, then don't charge money for the game. Don't make money off of them. To me, if we're just going straight ethics, morals, and theory, I think that would be the rule. Obviously, that hasn't been the rule forever. I had a buddy in high school who, when I played basketball, we'd always be like, "Hey, man, you coming to the game?" He's like, "I don't know if I can pay for a ticket." It was like $5. We were like, "Come on, you can figure it out." He's always that guy, always bumming money off people to try to get
that's what it was for us, because it was $3 if you were a student to get into the games. But once playoffs started, it was the state playoffs, so that was $5 non-negotiable, and it was man, people were stressed about those $5.
803-404-6100, the number of the program. Love to hear your thoughts this morning, whether it's via the Love Chevy phone lines or the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. That same number, 404-6100. Bill Gunter with a day off today, tomorrow as well. He'll be back on Thursday. Tim Hill, Patrick Perrette, Jen Jensen with you this morning on a Tuesday. As August begins, we've got Gamecock football practice kicking off on Friday, NFL exhibition game, Hall of Fame game Thursday night. Football season, man, if you don't think it's already here, it is certainly close. J.C. Horn with a big day for the Carolina Panthers in training camp yesterday. More details on that as we continue to roll on here on the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
You ever thrown a shot put?
No. Yeah.
I picked one up and tried to throw it like a baseball one day when it was just sitting outside, and I had to miss practice that day. I was very, very worried that I'd screwed something up in my arm.
Yeah, those things are no joke.
I thought I could just huck it and it wouldn't go very far, but no, it actually like pulls the. Yeah, I thought I tore my shoulder.
You Strasburged it?
I would love to try and throw a javelin now.
That would be fun.
It'd be a blast. The hammer throw, no interest. I would probably throw it backwards. I would not know when to let go.
Anthony, my apologies.
You nailed it.
Excellent work, as always. Just wanted to, basically, I wanted you to show off for everybody. That was my point there. Morning, RL. Morning, Josh. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. I got a buddy who used to work at LTX. He went to Carolina. Lewis Turner is his name. Lou works as a morning anchor in Jacksonville at an NBC station. So he did the series, what did he call it? Average Guy Does the Olympics. So I'm throwing the javelin a little bit on social media.
I think that would be very fun for everyone at the station to just pick the events that aren't going to hurt you, but just see what you could do.
That narrows it way down.
That we should have thought about that way earlier.
If you had to pick one event, one Olympic event, what are you choosing?
If we had to do only individual events?
Only one individual event. What's the one event that you think you can do the best at from an Olympic standpoint?
Just in general or compared to our...
Stop overthinking. One event. What's your best one?
Well, I think I do well in the weightlifting compared to... But I'm not like that strong. I don't consider myself to be like super strong or anything, but I've been in a weightlifting program more recently than anyone else at this station. Dressage? Yeah. I've never been on a horse.
Captain Dave might whoop you.
Yeah. I've never been on a horse, so I wouldn't be dressage.
No, I'm not saying what would you bet that you would beat everybody else at the station in. I'm saying if you had one event in your life to channel and focus all your energy to try to qualify for the Olympics, what would it be? Mine would be table tennis.
Possibly table tennis.
Don't get me wrong. Absolutely.
I mean, if we could do team sports, it's obviously handball. I have no doubt that I could play on an Olympic handball team right now after watching them.
I don't get it. What's your Olympic skill level in that you didn't find in lacrosse?
Exactly. It's easier than lacrosse.
But for everyone.
Yeah. So I don't think it takes I think handball is so easy. Just watching what they do, I mean, they're like not that big. It's a little bit physical, but I could body through those lanky little Europeans would be blocking me from charging down the lane. I don't think so.
So you just think it's a lack of competition level that could help get you there? Because my question is, what physical traits that kept you from being an Olympian in lacrosse, which they don't have, would make you an Olympian in handball?
Well, in lacrosse, I generally wasn't a good enough athlete. Because you're guarding one-on-one behind the net, and kids can go back and forth, and the best attackmen in lacrosse are just so shifty and so quick that at the end of the day, I was just unable to keep up at the highest level.
Yeah,
but you don't need to. There's no behind-the-goal action in handball. And we played a lot of handball with tennis balls and pug goals in high school, and I was always phenomenal at it.
Wall ball? Any wall ball in your background?
Oh, I love wall ball.
Amazing.
Last time I played wall ball was with lacrosse sticks, and my brother hit me in the back of the head when I was facing the wall, and that was my last go round of the lacrosse wall ball.
That'll do it.
It's a heavy ball.
We're about to get back in.
I don't have the first idea what RL just said.
We got a caller here we'll get to.
Guess right.
Friday, August 27th. Mark it down on your calendar. Love to have you out at Charwood Golf Club for our annual golf tournament out there for 107.5 Game. This year celebrating 14 years on the air. Panera Breakfast, Little Pigs Lunch, and raising money for Camp Cole. It's a Captain's Choice event, so if you hit a bad shot, you pick it up, you put it in your pocket, and you take the best one on the team and move on. We're going to give away a trip to Kiowa for the winning team, raffle off a pair of tickets for the Gamecock football home opener as well. Just give Charwood a call to register at 803-755-2000. That's our 14th annual 107.5 The Game Golf Tournament. Media. Looking forward to seeing you out there on August 27th, 10 a.m. tee time that Friday, by the way, 8 days before the start of college football season. And speaking of the college football season, the college football career of Quinn Ewers, the
player in high school football in the country, a quarterback from the state of Texas, who reportedly has seven-figure deals or a seven-figure deal lined up for name, image, and likeness. That's his college career starting a year early now. And to be very clear, I got no problem with him doing that. Don't blame him a bit. Why wouldn't you start marketing that mullet that he's got? I saw somebody, message board geniuses, I think is the Twitter handle. I'm now the Twitter account I'm following, but we'll just go and screenshot message boards all over the place. And this one was, I forget from where, but just said that Quinn Ewers is well on his way to beginning his path to Myrtle Beach with that mullet. I couldn't help but laugh at that. It's pretty good. 803-4. Yeah. Well, only if he can play. Only if he can play.
Yeah, but at the very least, he's going to make $1 million as soon as he gets there.
Well, that's the thing that I don't quite get in the name, image, and likeness deal. I understand that the potential can be there and you want to get in on the ground floor maybe if you're a business, but I think I would think we're going to see that kind of tamp down as the name, image, and likeness thing becomes more and more commonplace and evolves year to year, that you're going to see so many busts. Because I mean, even big-time high school quarterback prospects. What Mitch Mustaine is the one that I'll point to as being the one that I remember the most as a surefire, going to be a superstar quarterback. Didn't become that in college. There are so many guys that don't become that. I get it. I mean, when you're in the category of Vince Young and Trevor Lawrence, from a rating standpoint coming out of high school, it certainly looks really good. And when your grandfather is Archie Manning, it's going to look good for you. And you're in the Manning family, the next one in line is Arch Manning. It seems like a pretty sure bet, but it could also go the wrong way as far as an investment for a lot of these companies. And I think we're going to see that here at the beginning anyway. At least it seems poised to be that if yours has a 7-figure deal lined up.
Well, especially if some of these boosters or companies that decide to sponsor get burned a couple times by kids just not panning out whatsoever. They're not gonna want to just waste money for no reason. I think of it. It reminds me of how the NFL draft used to be, where there was no rookie wage scale or anything like that. So
Right.
you'd have number one picks come in and sign $50 million contracts before ever playing it down. And the teams realize, wow, we are wasting a lot of money on completely unproven potential here. We need to fix this. And it's going to be more of a like free market working that stuff out in college. But yeah, once a couple kids, 5-stars, don't pan out and teams or companies are donating hundreds of thousands of dollars and just burning it on wasted potential, they're not going to keep making that mistake.
Hey, if you're in your car, I'm guessing you might have just said out loud Jamarcus Russell or Akili Smith or any of those high draft picks that just didn't work out. Ryan Leaf. Yeah, any of those guys. 803-404-6100 is the number. It will make more sense for Steve to be speaking out loud in his car right now because he's on hold on the Love Chevy phone lines and up with us now to talk some name, image, and likeness in this Quinn Ewers situation. Hey, Steve.
Good morning, guys.
Morning.
The thing with Ewers that I was reading is a little more personal with him. This company called Kombucha, I think they do dietary tea and for digestive and gastro issues.
Holy Kombucha, I believe.
Holy Kombucha. He's got an equity stake in it, in the company. And it's more so personal with him is because his mom is a colon cancer survivor. So it's his dad works in natural gas. They said it's never about the money, whatever. What I find ironic is, we talk about the name, image, and likeness, and everybody's so scared of places like Texas. They got all this money and they're gonna be able to out recruit everybody. And before the name, image, and likeness, he was committed to Texas, and of course, he decides not to go to Texas. He's going to Ohio State, and you're like, well, you got this name, image, and likeness. So why didn't a Texas booster or someone who has a business or something come up with a proposition? But I guess he's already signed with Ohio State. But the ironic thing is, and I love anybody sticking it to the University of Texas because they're so arrogant that they think they know everything. But he decided he's gonna leave. He's gonna go somewhere else. He praised his teammates and everything. It was a hard decision for him, but you can't blame the kid for when he wanted to start the next process. He only had one class to finish, and it was a wrap. So why not go on to Ohio State and get on with your life, man? He's not gonna not keep in touch with his high school senior classmates, but this is life. You gotta move on.
Steve,
You guys have a good one.
wait a second, Steve, before you drop the mic on us. Now the question for me becomes, all right, what happens from here? Does the Texas University Interscholastic League that rules over all of high school sports, does it make the adjustment and say, all right, now you can get paid for your name, image, and likeness to keep big-time high school football players from leaving a year early? Or does this just become a handful of guys that have this option, and you don't make the rule for the exception, you make the rule for kind of more the general population here?
It's probably the general population because, like you're saying, this kid he's one of these once in a several year talent. With all the recruiting, not saying what he is. I don't know what the name, image, and likeness. I think is going to even out over time because right now we're in the infant stages of this. And we just got to see how it plays out as far as the return on the quote unquote investment. Because eventually, you're going to have some deals that they're going to come out to fruition. Hopefully with this kid with the equity in kombucha, it works out for him with the equity. But you're going to have others wherein, we're going to try to sign this deal and it doesn't burn out. So I think the Texas League, I just think you keep the rule the way it is, but he's more of an exception than the rule. Not everybody's going to be a 5-star and get a deal, or a 4-star and get a deal, because you're opening the gates. But it's basically the free market. So if somebody wants to sign a kid and they think he can make a good return on investment, but right now we're in this infant stage, so we have to see how this plays out over the next year or so and see how it plays out, I guess. But
Yeah, I think it's going to take more than
an exception to the rule.
No doubt about it. It's going to take more than 1 year. Steve, appreciate the phone call. 803-404-6100. If you would like to join the show. Josh says we act like these companies can't put clauses that you have to start and produce an X amount. It's a business, he says. More of you weighing in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Bitter Max says, keep in mind, it doesn't have to be an investment in a player's career or life. Fundamentally, it's just about ad impressions or clicks. If you can get your product to be seen by more people because you get a kid with a mullet to post it or talk about it, then your job as an ad salesman is effective. Who cares if you bust? Your company may have sold 50% more during the life of that NIL deal with that player, and I think this is a great example. We already talked about the one hypothetical product, that the hypothetical deal that hasn't been signed by one Texas high school football player joining Ohio State now. It's an interesting way to think about it for sure. Steve said he loves it when anybody sticks it to the University of Texas. Well, one Texas lawmaker did just that yesterday. Hear that when we come back. It's the Ola Game. It's 107.5 The Game.
This is South Carolina head women's basketball coach Dawn Taylor, and you're listening to the home of the Gamecocks, WNKT FM, Eastover, Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
As I sit here in my folding chair in the garage, it reminds me how nice a good recliner feels. And if you're in the market, you're thinking about upgrading maybe in your house, or maybe it's just about time and you're like me and you've had your recliner in your home since college. That's probably a little embarrassing knowing that I'm a 43-year-old man now. It might be time to go get a new recliner. And then that's when you got to get to Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding out near the airport. Walked into Daniel's the other day, and man, this thing, it's a massive store. And the great part about Daniel's is when you walk in there, you're going to have a conversation with another human being. How about that? Daniel's is going to treat you like family, not like a number walking into a big box store or just a nameless, faceless customer. They want to help you get exactly what you need. Their expertise is in motion furniture. Talking about recliners, reclining sofas, the leather gallery they have there with the love seats as well. You can go sit in them. And if you like the one you're sitting in, you can buy that one right off the floor. You live within 20 miles. It's free delivery as well. Daniel's, all about the 3 Bs. Best furniture, best service, and best price. The owners, Daniel and June Clark, been serving the Midlands for 25 years. They want to serve you as well. 3911 Edmond Highway in West Columbia, the back of the airport. Go see Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding. Remember, when it's time to save, it's time for Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding.
That did sound distorted there at the end of that live read. It's kind of strange.
Sorry, just missed that.
Sounded distorted at the end of that live read on the program audio thing, whatever it was.
Yeah, it's just because I switched over for the phone call, and it's really low. I mean, I have to put it really low for it not to be distorted with this little I have.
Makes sense.
Passionate about reclining. It sounds a little goofy. T-Ray, come on now. Don't act like that's never happened before.
I feel like it's just like, okay, part of the deal, throw the game, move on. You can't do that. It is illegal.
But yeah, with all the money out there with DraftKings, and who knows when the next scandal hits, but let's not act like it's the first.
And also, they can already do that.
For sure.
It doesn't mean a company is paying them to throw it. They can have a local bookie or something, or a kid put a bunch of money on one side, and the team decides, like, hey, we're going to pool our money together, throw this game, and we're going to get a payout from the casino.
I disagree. I think it makes it more difficult. It might make it easier for it to happen, but it'll make it more difficult to cover up.
What, the NIL?
No, the throwing of a game.
Oh. Yeah, I just don't see how that's relevant to the NIL discussion, because whenever these things have happened, it's been like mob related.
I would think that would be the last thing if you're going to do any kind of deal. And again, these deals aren't going to be, I think these are going to be the one thing that is legislated against, right? You can't sign a deal with DraftKings or any kind of bookmaker.
Right.
Not going to be allowed to do specific things that the NCAA already prohibits advertising to begin with. But if it were to happen, I think it would be a lot easier to sweep under the rug before information is so easy.
Yeah.
Like, you just put up the line beforehand, right? You see where you were in the game, and then now with video being as prevalent as it is, you just ISO that one player and you see everything that happens, and
right,
you got the smoking gun right there.
I don't even know what you're talking about, T-Ray. Nothing about this makes it easier for players to throw games.
I think it might make it easier for them to be approached.
I say, yeah, it might make it easier to think about.
By a wise guy?
I missed the wise guy. Where'd the wise guy come in?
Because that's like, I remember the City College of New York scandal and things like that. It was all mob related throwing games.
Arizona State was the one that sticks out to me. Right, I'm with you. And if guys are actually making money, the motivation for that isn't there. Ha! That's a good one, Craig.
The javelin goes the farthest of all the throws, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
And then
maybe discus? No, does discus go farther? I'm guessing discus goes farther.
Then a javelin?
Yeah, I'm thinking the discus goes farther than the javelin.
I was gonna guess javelin, then hammer, then discus, then shot put.
Really?
I'm gonna check all the world records.
Whenever you feel it, you can let it out when it comes to your hot takes. The hot take hotline there for you 24/7. Call 803-978-6654 if you need it. It's sponsored by Twin Peaks for the men who never settle. Go see them down in the Vista at 600 Gervais Street. The hot take hotline 978-6654. Appreciate you weighing in this morning on the latest in college football, where big-time high school quarterback out of the state of Texas, Quinn Ewers, has foregone his senior season now to join Ohio State and reportedly has a 7-figure deal for name, image, and likeness lined up. Kaiser hits us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line at 803-404-6100. I had a job in high school, he says. If I could have gotten a higher paying job, I would have. How can you tell a kid he can't make money? Anonymous texter said, don't take such a long-term view on the name, image, and likeness for these players. These local businesses aren't always looking for 5 years down the road or more. They could buy into a player for 1 or 2 years for big money just for the name, and then the next name is up. Small local businesses won't continue with the player into their NFL future. Patrick, that got me thinking, is some of these prospects, like a Quinn Ewers, these massive national prospects, is this could be their prime. Their money-making prime could be at 17 years old. And they could cash in here, be smart with their money, and move forward. I think it's a way to put a much more positive spin on some of these just tremendously sad stories where you see big-time high school prospects that, for whatever reasons, the injury is always the saddest to me, right? If a guy just blows his knee out, never gets the quickness or strength back in the knee or whatever it might be, and you saw all the potential and then kind of be on the cusp of really having the world in his hands, and it all goes away. Well, this would be almost an insurance policy against that, right? If you're already cashing in on your value to a company, that at least you have something to fall back on, and it doesn't have to be as sad a story that we've seen before, where everyone has made money off of a kid for a certain amount of years, and then when it's his turn to make that money, it doesn't happen for multiple reasons.
Yeah, and even if it's not injury related at all, I mean, how many kids are superstars in college that just don't, for whatever reason, make it to the NFL or I guess even more so, the NBA? There's tons of great college basketball players that don't end up having an NBA career. I mean, very few there's probably so many from South Carolina guys that could have made money, but I don't know. I think of just looking around this conference, think like a Marshall Henderson, how much money he could have made in college just for his boisterous attitude and things like that. And he never had a professional career or anything like that. But there's guys like it all the time. I think of Aaron Kraft, who's just undersized, but was a great college basketball player because he played tough defense and all these things. And you love watching him, but he just was never built for the NBA. There's all sorts of guys like that. There's quarterbacks that are running quarterbacks in college football that don't have the strong arm or can't make NFL throws, and they just end up ending their careers in college. So yeah, it works out great for everybody. It's probably the majority of Power 5 football and basketball players, their money-making prime is going to be from ages 17 or 18 to 22-ish.
Listener Marshall weighing in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Imagine what Marcus Lattimore could have done while he was here from that perspective. Trey says the recruiting violations over the next 5 years are going to be comical. Yeah, maybe. But I think it just depends how you look at that, right? If you think everything's been on the up and up and very clean beforehand, apparently to get that McDonald's bag story from Tennessee, then maybe your eyes will be opened by the money exchanging hands or whatever happens in the next several years. To me, again, the more light we can shine on this, I think the better. And now I think the exact opposite about the latest in the Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC saga, when lawmakers start getting involved, and then you give a lawmaker a chance to make headlines, to take a shot, and that's exactly what they'll do. And it happened yesterday. Texas senators having Texas school leaders, including the school president of the University of Texas, in a public meeting, and one Texas senator had some extra fun with the Texas school president. I wanted to let you hear what it sounded like. Here it is.
But what's your athletic budget?
It's over 200 million. It's probably 220, 225 in that range.
Where does that put you in the U.S.?
Depending on how you count, probably first.
And that's without a winning football team of late.
It's in spite of our football team. We've been winning just not like you like to win.
3-7 against the Horned Frogs. So maybe your fan base would rather lose to Alabama than TCU. So, but what's your athletic budget?
Woo. Maybe your fan base would rather lose to Alabama than TCU. That's Senator Lois Colcourse, who I think actually used to work at TCU in the sports information department. And I think it's actually 2-7. I saw the record corrected there. What's going to come of all this, Patrick? Are lawmakers going to be able to keep Texas and Oklahoma from coming to the SEC? And then if not, what's going to happen with the rest of the 8 teams in the Big 12? Where does this thing go?
I don't understand how it's any of their business. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. I think they might be right when they say it's in the best interest of the state of Texas that Texas and Oklahoma stay in the Big 12. I might agree, but that's not in the best interest of Texas or Oklahoma financially. So I don't understand how government is involved in this at all. And that clip, like, were they being funny, or was she being serious and taking shots, or was it a little bit of both? Because I don't really get it.
Yeah,
I guess it's like a nice jab, but
odd exchanges, I think, between people that clearly have a relationship with each other. I'm guessing the Texas senator knows the Texas president there, because I heard in his voice like, oh, we're going to have some fun with this, or it sounds like you're going to make this fun. I'll say that despite our football program and the whole thing, or that he just felt really uncomfortable and knew that it wasn't going to go down a bad path.
Right. Because if we were being real serious about the legal aspect, and you said without a winning football team, I would say objection. We have been a winning football team. Yeah. We've won a lot. We've won a lot of football games. Yeah.
Well, I think the explanation for this is that these are public universities, right? So the public lawmakers can get their hands involved. To me, this is just typical politics where you got grandstanding and people trying to grab headlines and take shots and the whole thing. But what came out of this hearing yesterday is that Bob Bowlesby projects that without Oklahoma and Texas, basically the revenue from television goes down 50% in the Big 12. And then I would say, as opposed to what she was saying, and then there was another line in there, I think yesterday, well, why didn't you make the Big 12 a big boy if you guys are so good, or if your athletics teams are so strong, why couldn't you elevate the Big 12 to the level of the SEC? We all know in college sports, it was Oklahoma and Texas, and then everybody else in the Big 12. And now it's coming back to bite them, I think, because that league was just hanging on for the last decade, basically. And when you have 2 teams that carry that much of the money, you got big problems. I get it that Alabama is certainly leading the way in the SEC, especially when it comes to football. But there are plenty of other programs that are making plenty of other big-time money in there that keep things much more equitable, I would say, outside of Vanderbilt. But, yeah, politics and sports and now the expansion thing, it couldn't be going more of the wrong way. So we'll get back into much more pleasant sports conversation as we roll on this morning. J.C. Horn, a big day at Carolina Panthers camp yesterday. An injury to an SEC quarterback changes things on the field, at least preseason-wise. And we'll give you details, again, as we roll on this morning. Bill Gunter's taking the morning off. Patrick Perrette, Jen Jensen, and I'm Tim Hill. It's the early game on 107.5.
107.5 The Game. The game is on everywhere. On the air, online, on your phone, or
Fish sticks, tater tots. What else was going flying yesterday? I think it was blueberries and grapes. The 1-year-old had his usual interactions during our dinner time. Fortunately, we've got some professionals to help us out around the house. I'm talking about Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. Zero Res has been out to my house several times, done a great job cleaning my carpets and area rug for me. The kitchen tile and bathroom tile really refreshed it and made it look a lot better, made our house feel like that home feel. That's something, in my opinion, you can't put a price on. Zero Res does have a great summer special for you right now. 3 rooms of carpet cleaned, only $119, plus a free hallway when you mention me, Tim Hill. I recommend that you go online right now, ZeroResColumbia.com, and book your appointment, you can give them a call at 803-262-4020. When you're online at ZeroResColumbia.com, you'll also see that Zero Res does it differently than any other carpet cleaning service out there. They have a patented powered water system, no harsh chemicals involved in their process. That's especially important to me and my family with 3 kids, always rolling around on the floors, that 1-year-old always throwing things on the floor and then picking them up and trying to eat them and the whole thing. Nothing for us to worry about. Also, my carpets stay cleaner longer because no leftover soapy residue involved. Yours can as well. That's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean. Feel like you just wanted to be in the court there to spice things up. Objection.
Define winning. They definitely haven't been as bad as people think.
No doubt. Oh, this Rick Texter is fun, isn't he?
Which was this? Rick. Jeez. Are you a journalist?
I do have a journalism degree. I've never introduced myself as a journalist.
As a journalist?
I do not own a journal.
It was literally a radio TV degree from Butler. Maybe we didn't want to be confused with journalists.
I hear you.
I'd consider myself a journalist.
I like how you squinted your eyes when you said that. Very serious way.
Consider myself a lot of things. Consider myself a scientist as well.
Ah. Oh, wow. The tie now.
Thanks for the update there, Hope. Not good. Last check I saw, Team USA was up to.
Well, China's crushing us on gold medals at this point. I think they've got 10 more than us. Last I saw the thing go up.
Yeah.
Well, and Patrick, you're right. And looking at those girls that did the
gymnastics,
they look like they're 12. Truly.
It's unreal, yeah.
Or younger.
Yeah, if you told me they were in 5th grade, I'd been like, yeah, that makes sense. Why are they here? Why are they not in school right now?
Exactly.
It is August 3rd, dude. You got no summer break for school?
Well, there are schools that are in session. Like a friend of mine teaches in Tennessee, and they start today. Teachers went in yesterday, and outside of Atlanta, they're going.
That sounds like amazing to me.
I believe in year-round school.
Yeah.
When you
No, not when I was in school. My mom always wanted us to go to school year-round, though.
Summer break, maybe the most American thing there is. How dare you?
Exactly. And I think for the students, but I think for the teachers too. Like, they needed time to re-energize.
By far the biggest benefit of being a teacher, right?
Well, yeah, the schedule is the best part of being a teacher. Never work a holiday, no nights, no weekends.
But they also have.
Unless you're a coach, but that's fun.
Yeah.
I did that for free.
And that was fun.
That's usually a bank on nights, weekends, and holidays. Just knowing for sure, all off. I would like that schedule. When I win the lottery, that's going to be my job.
All right, going back into the end hour music. In about 45 seconds. You're up.
Former Gamecock J.C. Horn raising the eyebrows, getting Carolina Panthers fans pumped up with a couple of interceptions yesterday in training camp. I think on the other side of the ball, Matt Rule was really unhappy with his offense and Sam Darnold throwing some of those interceptions. And in SEC news, Miles Brennan from LSU broke his left arm, going to have surgery, out indefinitely. Patrick, you concerned at all about the quarterback depth with Max Johnson taking over there at LSU?
No, not the depth. I'm sure they'll be fine with Max Johnson. I'm just personally bummed for Miles Brennan because of his journey to get here and just not working out for him at all.
We'll try to cheer Patrick up. Hour number 3 coming up next here on the early game.
And you're listening to 1075 The Game, WNKT FM, Eastover, Columbia.
Jay Farner here, CEO of Rocket Mortgage and Rocket Companies. Last year we saw historic low mortgage interest rates. What you may not know is that interest rates are.
Will y'all talk about high school when it rolls around football-wise, I assume? So, I'd be talking about just like X's and O's high school football-wise. That doesn't happen much around here on our show. We have a Friday night show where you can keep up with scores, but it will be almost all college football with a little NFL thrown in maybe in the coming months. Is that why you're shaking your head vigorously there, Patrick?
Yeah, I will not be talking about high school football.
I'm guessing that
I'll
is
be talking
a jamboree or a practice team. Sorry, Jim. You'll be talking about the Cubs dominating.
Yeah, the Cubs and the Bears, of course. So that's going to really, I think, take up a lot of our time because it's just going to be such a dominant season. Can you hear my eyes roll?
I mean, what would you say, Patrick? You're the NFL guy, percentage-wise of college football discussion versus the NFL.
Like 80-20.
Yeah, me too. Morning, Whit. Talking a lot of Texas this morning. Glad you're with us in Fort Worth. Kev, I'm guessing you might be from the upstate then, if you mentioned Burns. I think the upstate gets a lot more high school football conversation than around here.
I don't think I'll ever go to a high school football game again for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Okay, Trey. Yeah.
To the point where my kids are curious about high school football or just football in general, and high school football is a good cheap option. I might take them to on Friday night.
Hey, those could be fun games. Yeah.
But then if all they want to do is run around while you're there, then you gotta just stop taking them.
Yeah, definitely Burns and Dutch Ford are the programs for sure. It's going Dorman. You can't say anybody is greater than Dutch Ford these days, going for 6 in a row, I think.
That's crazy.
I have not been to, I think the only high school sporting event I've been to since the day I graduated high school was I went to the state championship in Williams-Brice because Zach Pickens was there 1 year.
Oh,
and
wow.
I just wanted to see what the atmosphere was like at a South Carolina high school game.
No high school lacrosse game, sir?
Coaching.
You coached in? Right.
Yeah.
That counts.
Okay. But coaching counts, I guess. But I've never just gone back to my high school to like watch a game.
Right. Same here. Top 5. What do you got?
Well, the chalk picks are the Chiefs and the Bucks. They're both prime.
Wait. Can you put the top 5? I mean, Anthony did fund that whiteboard behind you.
True. It's a really good point.
He deserves it.
No, this green's not working.
Kev, I might have been out that game. White, no. Had a good quarterback, good running quarterback. Wasn't very big. And White Note baseball was really, really good for a little while. So I have been to games just in a TV working capacity, being camera guy, jumping in, jumping out. Ha. No doubt. If you translated yesterday's news anything other than that, I don't know how you're seeing the Carolina Panthers. But it is just early in training camp as well. But if you have a bunch of big faith in Sam Darnold, good luck. Where are you at? You stumped on 4 or 5?
5.
Bucks, Chiefs.
Packers,
No way.
Bills.
Packers, Bills, and then what'd you go with 5? I bet some people are going Browns these days.
Yeah, well, it's Browns and Ravens that I'm choosing between, but I just give the Ravens organization the benefit of the doubt, generally speaking, because they're probably the third best organization in football.
Ray's got the Bills at 5.
But also, I would argue that almost anyone in the NFC West could be in this discussion. The high end for the Rams and Seahawks and Niners is all very high. I just don't know what they're all going to look like yet.
Agreed. Oh, all right. Trey's just got to put down a bunch of teams at number 5.
I think the Browns are in the 5 best rosters. They definitely have a better roster than the Packers, but the Packers have Aaron Rodgers. So
York, it's the best example I've ever seen of a single coach having such a dramatic effect on a high school program. Tom Knotts. Just incredible.
What does he do that's just works so well? What is it?
I don't know. Well, it's definitely high intensity. Let's put it that way. High accountability. He wears shorts every game, no matter the temperature.
Where did he come from?
Charlotte. I think it was Independence High School. And so he had gotten so many years that he was able to retire in the North Carolina school system and then come down to the South Carolina school system.
Smart.
And basically double dip. Genius.
Absolutely. All right, about to head back in the open.
Yeah, but that's every really good high school program, I think, is that you start running the system early. Middle school, for sure.
Yeah.
But it does have a massive impact.
Guys, rep.
No cowboy hat for Patrick today. It doesn't work well with the headphones, unfortunately for him. You do wear the heck out of that cowboy hat. No doubt about it.
It is the perfect cowboy hat for me.
Well,
I picked it very carefully.
I think it was my favorite when Heath came in here and filled in for that hour when you guys were playing in the golf tournament. And we had that exact open with country music, and we know how much Heath absolutely detests country music. So it was so great to hear him talking over that bed. It was beautiful.
I think he detests music.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
Gonna find you.
I'm Tim Hill. She's Jen Jensen. Bill Gunter with a day off this morning. Glad you're joining us in hour number 3 here already today. The sports landscape, again, I'm going to miss this thing in a week because I've now been spoiled with live sports during our show and immediate stuff to talk about and react to, which is something that we don't normally get in the 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. show. But when you have a 13-hour time difference with Tokyo and the Olympics, this morning it's Simone Biles getting back on the medal stand. And I think her story, we haven't talked about it much today because we talked about it a ton. And I get it if you're you're sick of that conversation. You're ready for football. I'm with you to a large degree, but I think we do need to avoid just harping on the negative of the opting out with mental health issues from most of this competition, and point out the positive ending to this story for Simone Biles at 24 years old, gets back in the final individual event, I think, from gymnastics, and does end up getting the same exact medal in this event that she got in the 2016 Olympics. Patrick, how does the Simone Biles kind of saga here, how does it end in Tokyo for you, knowing that Biles is back on the medal stand just a few hours ago, gets the bronze in the balance beam, and didn't miss the entirety of the Olympics with the mental health issues, but did miss a lot of it?
It is a positive that at least the final scene of her in the Olympics will end on a podium holding a medal. I mean, that is a positive. I think I'll just remember this whole storyline as just so controversial and just not a lot of, kind of brought out the worst sides of people too, and just for no reason. I think I'll remember it as the most over-the-top opinions for something that wasn't that big of a deal, honestly. Like, it took up a whole week of just no compromise, no middle ground in the discussion. So I'm just going to remember the discussion points about it rather than anything really else.
Why do you say it wasn't a big deal?
Well, because it's sports. And people were acting like they were personally offended by it, or on the other side, like it was the most heroic act the world's ever seen. So just, I don't know. It was just a bizarre. I'll remember it as bizarre, I think, above all else, the way people handled that and received that.
Well, to me, this is just representative of kind of where we are as a country, a society these days. I'll go to the other side of this thing. I think it's a good thing that you can get so passionate and so deeply ingrained in a sports opinion right now, because to me, it shows that maybe we've moved past more serious issues and are back to more of a lighthearted way of life that we've gone through. And that's certainly part of the narrative of Simone Biles having to wait an extra year to get to the 2020 games in 2021 and all the pressure she felt. To me, it was such a controversial thing because we've never seen it before. It's a lot like this Quinn Ewers thing to Ohio State that we talked a lot about today. The Texas high school quarterback joining Ohio State a year early for going his senior season in high school football, because there's 7 figures attached to this story with name, image, and likeness that for the first time college athletes can cash in on. We're seeing it right now, just in what's been a month old, maybe not even a month old, that college athletes have been allowed to cash in on this. I saw the first video evidence of it from a Gamecock standpoint yesterday with a few USC women's basketball players putting out videos, hyping up a Bojangles chicken sandwich. Never thought I'd see that in my life, by the way. In my life, I never thought I would have a phone that I can watch videos on, first of all, and then see Gamecock athletes endorsing something, getting paid for it. And now you're talking about a guy who had an opportunity to make $1 million reportedly, or play a senior season in high school football. Easy decision, I think, for all of us, for most of us. I guess you could be the one purist out there that really had an amazing high school football experience or something, or has been really successful in business outside of that and can say, no, money is the root of all evil and you can't do that and the whole thing. To me, it's hard for me to understand. Coming from my perspective, I had fun my senior season of playing 3 sports in high school. I would have taken $1 million real quick. And by the way, this is not an either or proposition from the standpoint of playing sports. Now you get to go play for Ohio State. Yeah. And I get it. You probably won't play, and you got some big time quarterbacks in front of you in that room. But Patrick, I know you're shaking your head, man. Trevor Lawrence played pretty early, and that's where this kid is getting rated right beside coming out of high school. So it will be interesting to see. But it's amazing to me all that has happened just in the last couple of weeks in the spectrum of sports, and Simone Biles certainly a huge part of that conversation. Happy to see that it ended at least with some kind of light at the end of the tunnel here. Some of the reaction this morning, I guess the headline that I saw on the ESPN.com story was, "I did this for me." And again, I was just going out there doing this for me. I think that is a difficult part of this narrative. It was the difficult part of the immediate post match. I don't know what you call it. The press conference right after she decided to opt out and mentioned the mental health issues and talked about that she had to focus on herself. That's the theoretical part I have a hard time wrapping my brain around. Trying to coach kids moving forward in team sports where you coach the opposite of that. It's not about you. It's about the team, something bigger than you. But also trying to keep in mind all the sacrifices that Simone Biles has made and everything she's overcome to get to her point in her career as the greatest U.S. gymnast of all time. To me, Patrick, what this has been a test of in a lot of ways is the amount of conviction / willingness to be open-minded about all the factors, or to allow a story to be complicated or simplified. I feel like you kind of look at this one way or the other, right? You acknowledge all the different factors going into this thing, and what you kind of said, that in reality, probably not an overwhelming hero on one end, or just completely weak-minded, lack of competitiveness quitter on the other end. And you hear both of those, and to me, how you get to either one of those conclusions is equally mind-boggling, knowing all the layers involved in this thing. But I'll take away that we look at athletes in 2021 differently than we've ever looked at them. Maybe allowing them to be more human than we've ever allowed them to be. I think ultimately that's a good thing. But I think it's really easy for the individual to allow themselves to become a lot bigger than they ever have before. I don't like that trend, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, everything is changing. It was just such a bizarre situation. And the gymnastics factor screwed everything up because it's something we're not familiar with, something we don't know about, and we only see her every 4 years, and we don't really know much about her. It's not like we see her doing interviews every day. So it was, and also just the information all coming out through Twitter, like every couple minutes, a little piece here, a little piece there, and you just find out bit by bit. And while we're doing live radio is part of it, and it just seemed like all of the discussion was had on Twitter, which is always the worst place to have a discussion because people just spit out quick, short takes, and there's just no room for compromise in any of it. So, I hope that we learn from what that conversation devolved into, and can have more open discussions. So I don't know. Hopefully it turns out to be a good thing. But for her sake, if she says I did it for me, that's great. I mean, now probably the last time she'll ever compete in gymnastics, I assume, was ending on a podium, and instead of going to Tokyo, and her career basically ending on a messed up vault where she got the twisties. So happy ending, I hope.
Quinn Ewers heading to Ohio State. Most of our conversation this morning, the fact that a high school quarterback will forego his senior season to get to college early. And again, I know he's saying it's not about the money, but I don't think he thought about this beforehand, right? It wasn't a Jake Bentley situation where you have the opportunity to just go ahead and start your college career, and you just decide to do that because you feel like you're ready for it. I mean, seems like from a physical standpoint, this kid's ready to play some college football and will have a chance to earn some playing time. But the extra factor with a 7-figure deal attached to it. Like Troy just hit up, and Troy, I find this hard to believe in. There is no amount of money I would have traded my senior year of playing sports for.
Yeah, I simply do not believe you.
Well, maybe Troy didn't get to play in college, and that's why he's saying it was his last year of competing with guys that he grew up with and the whole thing. But again, not the case for Quinn Ewers. He didn't have to say, all right, either I'm done playing sports and I get $1 million, or I can play one more season. That's just not the deal. Kev says, Troy, if you got $1 million in your face at 17 or 18 years old, I think you would change your mind by that. I find it hard to believe that any of us out there would turn down 7 figures at that.
It's just, that's why these conversations are, the takes we get are just crazy. It's like, it's so easy to say that when you know for a fact you will never be offered $1 million to go play sports, or to say that this is wrong. High school sports is all about the brotherhood when you or your kid have not been offered life-changing money to miss 1 year of school when it's their decision to. It's just wild. Unless Troy comes from millions of dollars and was rich growing up, I just cannot believe that you wouldn't have taken $1 million to not play a season of high school football. Are you
Chad
kidding me?
brings up a really interesting point on the YouTube live stream. Man, at 18 years old, I would have traded senior year for $10,000. Maybe the number is the really interesting part there. Oh,
I would trade my right arm for $1 million.
6 figures would you have done it for? What would have been the number? Troy says there's no amount of money. Really, $10 million, you wouldn't have done it? Are you kidding me? That's a strange part of our conversation in this country for sure. 803-404-6100. Scott says, take the $1 million all. There are a bunch of dudes out here who experienced the glory days of their lives in high school, though they identify themselves in conversation almost immediately. Robert's got a good point. Can you say target on your back? Yeah, Quinn Ewers is not allowed. He was going to be a big-time name no matter what, but now with this attached to him as well, there will be a big-time target on his back, no doubt about it. These kids are setting aside money to pay the taxes on this NIL deal. Yeah, that's another part of this process, right? These kids will be the most educated about handling their money of any generation. And it's not even going to be close. And I think that's a positive that's easy to ignore in this situation as well. We need to turn our situation to a quick commercial, get back into this conversation, and love to hear your opinions about it. If you do call the Love Chevy phone lines, I would appreciate you not talking Jen's ear off the air and talk to us on the air if you'd like to speak to us. We would love to have a conversation with you.
No, this was actually an okay call. Well, it wasn't an okay call, but yeah, we had a longtime listener that we found out passed away. Nobody that we've spoken to recently, but so I was kind of getting an update on that. But yeah, otherwise, anybody who calls, yeah, don't be afraid to talk to you guys. They like to tell me the story and say, pass it along. I say, no.
Jen is not a passer alonger. She is she's our producer. We would love to hear it straight from you.
Yeah, you're a lot smarter than I am, folks.
803-404-6100 is the number. You can call or text. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game. It's a weak point, Troy. A weak point. Could he have? But he gets hurt.
Hey, Les, how are you doing this morning?
Just $1 million less that he would have.
Okay, who does that ever in life? I'm going to turn down $1 million this year because I can get it next year. Justin's got an excellent tweet or an excellent text in on the old text line. No, Kev. Only if they were like through a government business or something to a government entity. Every deal will be different, man. Just like real life. $10,000 was such an unfathomable number for me when I was in high school. I'm probably with you, Chad.
Yeah, I mean, $10,000 should not have changed.
We have a gal who used to call all pretty regularly with a previous morning show, and I think she's maybe had called even in the afternoons a little bit. Her name was Marilyn, and everybody knew Marilyn. She worked at the Walmart in West Columbia, and just sweet gal. Huge Gamecock fan, and anyway, her daughter called to say that she had she passed away. So I was like, oh, that's a bummer. Sweet lady. Oh, and we do have Les on the phone.
Okay, thank you.
Name, image, likeness. I'm so thirsty.
I'm with you, Justin. Light of day. York's looking to invest.
How much does a pole vaulter thing cost?
What's that?
How much does a pole cost?
Great question. I'd imagine it's got to be a couple $100.
And does it come all like as one piece, or do you screw it together in certain areas? I would think no, because you need the flexibility
I don't know.
of it.
You just buy a different height depending on how tall you are, or they're all the same height? I don't know.
Yeah, how do you get that to your house or your place that you trade if it doesn't come in pieces?
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, how do you throw it on the airplane? Yeah.
It's like an entry level would be $259 to $500, $561.
For a stick.
One piece, Mark says. One piece.
I'm seeing them on Amazon.
Sense.
13 feet long.
Yeah. So
14 feet, 15 feet. Yeah.
Wow.
13 to 15 feet is what I'm saying. $150 shipping.
I believe it. What you did?
How do you fly that somewhere? Like that's bigger than a carry-on,
To travel with it?
Can you see that sucker, coming around the belt and baggage claim?
Yeah. I don't.
Imagine you got to ship it UPS to wherever it's going.
But how do you even carry? It just anywhere you needed to carry that, it would be so difficult. You can't take it to a UPS store.
Well, right.
How you get it? How you get it through the door?
Good
You can't
point.
put it in your car. It's just got to go out the window. Keep your trunk open.
Through with the flag.
I mean,
I had pole buddies back in college. I should have asked them all these questions. Never even.
yeah. What a horribly inconvenient piece of equipment. Does USC have pole vaulters?
Oh yeah, that's
Can
where
we
I
get
go.
one on the show just to ask them questions about the inconvenience of the pole?
Oh, wow.
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 Right.
Carbon fiber would be durable.
This has 500 jumps in it, 1,000 jumps in it, because it was the woman from Greenville, right? It broke on her. Is that correct or no?
I don't think she's from Greenville. I think she was from the Chicago area.
Sandy?
Sammy?
But is there somebody keeping count of how many jumps he's made with it so she can get warranty money if it didn't perhaps
But
not
maybe it
too
was
soon?
Sandy who got hurt, and it might have broken on another female. Is that the deal?
Possibly. I didn't know there was a pole vaulter from Greenville.
All right, we're heading back in.
So we got Les on the line for name, image, likeness. Is that what he wants?
Yes, correct. Something with Carolina. All right, you're up.
Love to see you out at Shorewood Golf Club Friday, August 27th, our 14th anniversary 1075 The Game Golf Tournament. Going to have Panera Breakfast, Little Pig's Lunch, that is. A Captain's Choice event that tees off at 10 o'clock, raising some money for Camp Cole. No way a trip to Kiowa for the winning team and raffling off a pair of tickets for the Gamecock football home opener. That will be 8 days from then. That's Friday, August 27th, 10 a.m. tee time. Give Charlwood a call to register at 803-755-2000. That's our 14th anniversary 1075 The Game Golf Tournament presented by Integrated Media. Glad you're a part of the program wherever and however you're listening to us this morning. The live video stream on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, sponsored by Buford Lending. By the way, want to get out to the Love Chevy phone lines. Name, image, and likeness has been a big part of our conversation this morning because Quinn Ewers, the Texas high school quarterback, foregoing his senior season out in Texas.
Going to go ahead and join Ohio State, and a 7-figure deal allegedly attached to his name, and is going to be part of, certainly a part of the consideration, even though his family seems to be pretty well off. I guess his dad in the natural gas business is the reports out there. Les would like to weigh in on this. Hey, Les.
Good morning, guys and ladies.
Morning.
Talking about turning down that kind of money to Reese Havens and Justin Smoke, both basically turned down that around $1 million to play baseball in Carolina.
Yep, I remember those days for sure, Les. And I think it was Troy pointing out that a couple of Clemson guys might have turned down big money to go play baseball and football at Clemson. But we've seen this before. This wasn't a senior season in high school kind of deal. We've seen this through the years multiple times. Is your point, Les, that this is not necessarily an old, a new thing for college athletes to have to decide?
Well, on the baseball side, especially because, the kids, they can go straight into pro baseball out of high school. And so I remember correctly, Reese turned $1 million bonus down, and Justin turned $750,000 down to go ahead and come to college and play baseball.
No doubt. They're certainly not the only ones. Drew Meyer before them turned down Tommy Lasorda and the L.A. Dodgers and ended up being a first-round pick. Both Smoke and Havens ended up being first-round picks after college as well. Appreciate the phone call, Les. It's a different issue that, to me, I don't know how much bearing it has on the name, image, and likeness discussion that we're talking about with Quinn Ewers, because this guy has the deals lined up. And if he was in college,
He could immediately cash in on those. But in high school, you can't. It's a different determination between turning pro out of high school or going to college and not getting paid, but just taking a different path in your career, because that professional baseball out of high school deal, that can be a grind. Not can be. That is a grind. And then your life is just on a completely different trajectory, where college is going to be unlikely for a lot of those guys, right? You're going to do it way down the line, ideally after a long major league career, or maybe while you're in the major leagues or something like. You're just deciding not to go to school. That's a much different situation than athletes are in now, and I think fortunately, right? Because I don't know how marketable SEC baseball players are going to be, but there's no doubt in my mind, Patrick, as we sit here, for a guy like Justin Smoke was, or Reese Havens was, in the state of South Carolina, where college baseball is as popular as it is, I think there's some kind of market out there for him. And name, image, and likeness will be a thing for several baseball players. I just saw what Sheldon Brown's son, big-time Gamecock football player back in the day, and kind of played a little bit, I think, for Ray Tanner, and then obviously focused on football, had a long-time NFL career. His son has committed to play baseball for Clemson. I'm guessing there are going to be some name, image, and likeness money out there for these college baseball players, especially in our state, certainly in the state of Mississippi or Arkansas, Louisiana, and LSU. And now the fact that college players can earn some money in that way and still go that route, I think, from the college baseball standpoint, makes the argument to come to college and forego going straight to the pros out of high school a lot stronger, and adds some real life money into it.
Yeah, this will help the schools in basically this region. So helping Starkville, Mississippi, or Baton Rouge, or Fayetteville, Arkansas, or places where college baseball players are actually going to be able to make a little money because people will know who they are around town. But the MLB draft to the Quinn Ewers situation is just apples and oranges. Justin Smoke making a calculated decision that it will be better for him financially in the future to play college baseball and raise his stock is not at all the same thing as Quinn Ewers just starting the money making a year early. Justin Smoke's $750,000 would have turned into what, like $400.
He was going to make until he made it to the pros. So that's just not the same as Quinn Ewers just deciding that I already have $1 million deal lined up, and it's just going to be an extra year that I can make high six figures, if not seven figures, before I even get to the pros. So it's just not there. It's not really a relatable situation.
Dan says, I wonder what he would say if you asked him 10 years from now, especially if he's in the NFL making multi-millions, what was worth it to him for giving up his senior season of high school football. Like, we never heard Jake Bentley lament leaving high school early and coming to college, right? I think most of us who didn't go on to have a college sports career are seeing this much differently than these guys that actually continue on.
Yeah. Well, a lot of kids, we've talked about it. Like Jake Bentley was a coach's son, so he bounced around a lot. So it's not like he was in the same school for 17 years or with the same group of friends for 17 years. We also talked about Devin Hyatt recently decided that he doesn't even care about his senior year at Dutch Fork. He's going to go spend it at IMG Academy. Jalen Johnson, remember the kid that opted out of the season for Duke last year? We talked about how he went to like 4 different high schools in 4 years. A lot of these high-level athletes just don't have the same high school experiences that we or a lot of the listeners did. So for you to say that you had a great senior year of football, so these kids shouldn't be leaving for college early to make $1 million because you can't put a price tag on that year, it's just not the same discussion. It's not the same situation at all.
Anonymous Sector says the point Les was making was that giving up life-changing money to continue playing for your team is not new. High school kid could give up that money for 1 year to play high school and still get it a year later. That's what Troy was saying, right? Why do you guys think that money would be there a year later? For sure. That's not how the world works, right? I mean, unless you sign some kind of deal in the back room, which I don't think you could sign, right? That you could get paid it a year from now after you give up your high school eligibility, and maybe that's going to be what it comes down to, right? For some of these big time athletes, that you go ahead and sign a deal and say that 1 year from now, all right, this thing's still binding, but I don't see a business doing that. And you're right, Patrick. Or it was another texter who might have said that high school or baseball players don't typically retire at the age of 29 as opposed to football players, where it's just a much shorter career most of the time. I know Tom Brady and Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers, these guys are extending things way out there, but they're the exceptions for sure. And maybe a quarterback looks at it a little differently than a running back, for instance, where the shelf life is so short. But that baseball conversation is just a different one than this Quinn Ewers situation in a lot of ways. We've seen people turn down money before, no doubt about it. But that's money to play professional baseball, as opposed to money to just be you and make some posts on social media, or just tape a video, put a product up, and the whole thing. That's the big difference in where we are now than where we've been before. 803-460-100, the number into the program. If you would like to join, continue to hear some of your opinions. Matt W. says, educate me. Does NIL only apply to college or anyone 18 plus? Couldn't high school kids get paid with a parent signing off for their likeness? That's the specific instance here, Matt. And I'm glad you asked, just for a clarification standpoint, is that Texas high school sports, the University Interscholastic League that rules over Texas high school sports, specifically says you cannot get paid for your name, image, and likeness. And that's the specific rule that has been changed now in the NCAA, is that you can't. And lawmakers put the pressure on the NCAA to make this happen. Lawmakers yesterday talking with Texas officials, state of Texas schools officials, because Patrick, as plenty of listeners pointed out, it's a publicly funded school. That's why lawmakers can get their hands in there. I think you could come back and respond with, hey, the athletic department is always separate, right? That money comes from different places other than public. So politicians stay out of it. I'm with you on that. But, that's the way the world works. And one really interesting comment that I'd like to let you hear from one Texas lawmaker to the University of Texas school president. This is just politicians being politicians, I think, and making it just spicier with Oklahoma and Texas coming to the SEC. The state senator from Texas talking to the University of Texas school president here will take us to our final break of the morning. You're listening to The Early Game on 107.5.
How you count other coaches.
And that's without a winning football team, is right.
Pride of our football team. We've been winning, just not like we like to win.
3-7 against the Antelopes. So maybe your fan base would rather lose to Alabama than TCU. So
And talking more about money this morning than we've talked in a long, long time. It's one of the things that we usually don't touch on in the college sports market that we are, but has changed greatly. What else has changed greatly recently is the housing market. Man, if you're like me and you look at some of the websites out there, you see your home value, you got to be thinking, all right, it's now the time to make a move. I recommend you give Buford Lending and Benji Getsy a call as well, just to explore your options. That's all Benji asks. He knows you might have relationships with other lenders as well. Just give them a call and see what they can do for you. I've done that, and I've been amazed at the numbers that Benji has shown me right now in the market with the growing family, looking to possibly expand to a little larger house. I need to know exactly what I can get for my money, what it will cost me per month. And again, the numbers are pretty mind-boggling from Benji 843-524-2404 is the most important number. That's the number for Buford Lending, whether you're looking to get that second house, maybe refinance your current house, or get a construction, renovation, conventional loan, USDA, VA loan, whatever it might be. Benji Getzy and his team with 25 years experience has been there before. They're confident that they can find you the best deal right now. Let them work for you. That's Buford Lending and Benji Getzy. Give them a call at 843-524-2404. You're muted there, Pat.
I did think Gamecock Frank's text was funny.
What's that?
Gamecock Frank's text, he said, Patrick, you'd cut off your right arm for $10 million. Are you left-handed or just really stupid? I am left-handed.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately what this comes down to. And again, I get it that it might be messy, but ultimately, what's the downside here? What's the big downside?
Who makes that decision?
Well, it's like South Carolina High School League here. You know, the board members would make that decision. I think the UIL has the same deal. I'm sure they have an executive committee. Oh, well, Trey, I know we didn't do it live stream, but we had something similar to that. What was it, about a year and a half ago now, Patrick?
Combine. Yeah, the combine.
We basically did our own combine and got tested, and man, what was the best 40 time? Like 5.9, 5.8 from us?
Yeah.
It was sad.
Bill was over 6. Bill was the only one that didn't break 6 seconds.
And he pulled his hamstring while he was doing it.
Yeah. It would be so much fun if we could just, I would think javelin is safe. Hammer throw is probably not safe. We could hurt someone. Discus is probably safe. Shot put, if they show us how to do it, is safe. So we could do 3 throws. We could do a 100, a 200, a 400.
Awful.
What other Olympic events? We're not doing the hurdles. Someone's going to get hurt on the hurdles. We obviously can't do the pole vault. We can do the long jump. We can do the triple jump.
This is 25-year-old confidence.
That would be 8 events. I think we get 10 events. I think we get 10 events. Yeah, decathlon. So 100, 200, 400, hammer throw, or not hammer throw, discus, shot put, javelin, long jump, triple jump, high jump, and one more. We're not running more than 400 meters. That's just too much. One lap is enough. We can do 800. We can do an 800. I'm down for an 800.
All right, there you go.
I think
I think
being down is the key word. Being down.
That was our for my high school. We had our preseason fitness testing was the Titan Top 10, where we did 10 events, where it was like mile run, 5K run, 100 meters, 5 things, and then it was like squat, clean, bench, push-ups, sit-ups, or whatever. And wherever you ranked on the team, you'd get that many points. So if you came in last place, you got 1 point. If you came in first place, you got 35 or however many people were on the team.
Definitely not chase with. Definitely not.
We can't jump over a hurdle. Someone will hurt themselves. There's no way we can jump over a hurdle.
Yes,
no
you
doubt.
will.
Hope.
Yes.
It will turn from funny to sad real quick.
If we did all of the talent I think Heath's coming in last place.
Well, he can run. I think he can run distance, just maybe not fast.
Okay, I think the early game is at least going to be 3 of the top 4, and then Pearson will be in there. But if we add any strength elements to this thing, that's knocking Pearson out.
Yeah. Or head back in.
But Pearson, I would venture to guess, would beat all of us in the running events. He is a soccer guy.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
Are we going to the end here? We're done, right?
Yeah. Guys, are up.
If you like free stuff, I recommend you go see the Halftime Guys Thursday afternoon. They're going to be out at the new Palmetto Express truck stop, I-26, exit 125. Old Sandy Run Road is the spot in Gaston, and they're going to be giving away a bunch of free stuff there, coffee, frozen drinks. You can check out some of what they will cook up in their kitchen, and certainly recommend you, if you're by there, if you're going that way to Williams-Brice on Saturdays, you hook up some chicken wings from the Palmetto Express there off of exit 125 on I-26. Again, the grand opening of that Palmetto Express Thursday afternoon halftime show live on location. There'll be a blood drive in conjunction with that time, by the way, noon to 4, August 5th, this Thursday. Love to see you out there and have some fun with halftime show, guys. Get some free stuff and do some good for a good cause there. And by the way, this is not happening. How dare you guys? Patrick, I mean, where is your confidence with an early game decathlon of real live track and field events that you would get through this thing?
I want a full 107.5, the game decathlon.
Right.
And then I would be very confident.
Well, confident in beating a bunch of old dudes, I can get that, but I don't understand your confidence level of not being seriously injured to some degree and this thing turning bad real quick.
But this is look at the list of things that Trey just put: long jump, triple jump, shot put, discus, javelin, 100, 200, 400, high jump, weightlifting. None of those are dangerous.
I think the discus will be a frisbee. The javelin will be lawn darts.
Don't stand in the grass when I'm throwing the javelin. I think we'll be okay. Everybody just stand behind the thrower, and we'll be all right. The pole vault is where we would get hurt. The hurdles is where we would get hurt. I don't think anything else can hurt us. The hammer throw, someone's going to get hurt because I would not know when to let go.
Oh, no.
I would just get stuck in a spin cycle, and I would never let go.
Bill with the whole hamstring thing, he would be like whining. Oh.
Well, I mean, we just got to know going into it that if Bill doesn't do a good job on the first event, he's going to pretend he's hurt.
25-year-old confidence there, getting through any of those events. At 43 years old,
we're going to be sore the next day. I still remember limping into the studio the day after the Apex Combine. It was miserable, but I would still do it again.
It would be fun, kind of. We'll see. This conversation, I don't think it's a fun one necessarily right now for football fans. I think we're all ready for actual football discussion, much more of where LSU football is today after Miles Brennan goes down with a broken arm and Max Johnson is at the top of their depth chart. It looks like I think a lot of the tea leaves are reading in Max Johnson's favor anyway, Patrick. That's what I'm hearing now. Maybe it's revisionist history. Maybe it's they want to give Max Johnson some confidence going in. But just the fact that he was in the conversation to me with how productive Miles Brennan had been in his career was very interesting, and how I think his processing of information he gets a lot of credit for right now, which I would expect knowing that he's the son of Brad Johnson, NFL guy for a long, long time, and a guy who did it really well. The question to me will be, can he be a guy who gets it done for LSU? Because I feel like it's unfair to anybody following Joe Burrow. I mean, if they're not amongst the best in the history of college football, they're going to say, oh, man, this guy's not good enough. We got to get a better guy.
Yeah, but I agree that the tea leaves have read towards in Max Johnson's favor, which I had never really understood. I thought he played okay. In that Florida game they won, he played fine, but I wasn't overly impressed with his arm at all. And I thought Miles Brennan was awesome in those games that they were not very successful in that first game, but he was still lighting it up. This whole thing, It is a bummer because he was there when Danny Etling was there, and he was a freshman. Etling was a senior, and the plan was he'll start next year as a sophomore. He was highly recruited out of the state of Georgia, and then Joe Burrow transfers in, and everyone wanted Miles Brennan, but he said, no, I'll wait it out. Waited 2 more years for Joe Burrow to finish, finally gets a starting opportunity. It's a COVID year. That messes everything up. Then he gets hurt, and then just like that, he gets hurt again in his 5th year, and now he's just completely out of luck. So it's a real bummer for Miles Brennan. He's a really good kid, did exactly what you want in a program, not just transferring when a little bit of adversity hit him. He tried to stick it out, and it just didn't work out for him. So I hate it for him. But I think LSU fans I think a lot of them wanted Max Johnson to win this job anyway, just because they always want the younger guy. The depth maybe is a little bit concerning if he goes down. They've got a highly recruited kid out of the state of Texas, Garrett Nussmeier. But when you look at the quarterback room and the end of the season saying, oh, we've got TJ Finley, Max Johnson, Miles Brennan, all of whom have won games for LSU, they felt great. So it's Max Johnson's job by default. He probably would have won the job anyway, it looks like, but it's a bummer. It's fine for LSU. I think their overall roster is really good, so it's going to be up to the coaching staff to kind of make things easy for Max Johnson, but mostly I'm bummed for Miles Brennan.
LSU will start the season September 4th against UCLA, and that'll be the first time we'll see exactly how things are shaking out at LSU from a quarterback standpoint. Let's switch gears to the NFL. Yesterday, J.C. Horn, a big day at Panthers camp with a couple of interceptions, and Matt Rule really unhappy with his offense. How much stock do you put into what happened in one day at training camp? I think from my standpoint, it's not what you want to see. I never know exactly how much stock to put into all this stuff because your offense is playing against your defense. And I saw some of the video of J.C. Horn picks. One of them was off a deflection, the one off Sam Darnold, I think, and the other one came off of their backup quarterback there. But Sam Darnold was picked again. It's certainly not what you want to read. And I think this might be a little different story than other NFL training camps in that Sam Darnold has so much, not just to the NFL, but I think to Carolina Panthers fans. And Panthers fans, I think, spoiled in a lot of ways for a lot of years with Cam Newton. And then coming off the Teddy Bridgewater kind of bridge year, if you will, going to Sam Darnold, that move to get Darnold was made, I think, as a total backup move after the Deshaun Watson thing just went to a place that nobody saw coming. And he became unattainable in so many ways. I think Darnold has to convince Carolina Panthers fans that he can be the guy, and that is the only thing that's going to give that organization the confidence that it can be a playoff contender. And so it needs to happen. It needs to start to happen, I think, here in the next few days and weeks. Otherwise, at all.
Yeah, I don't think any Panthers fans saw the headlines that J.C. Horn had 2 picks and said, oh, this is great. He's going to be awesome. I think they were freaking out about their quarterback situation because, I mean, that kind of does tie into J.C. Horn because that was nobody really expected J.C. Horn to be that pick. He wasn't favored to even be the top defensive player drafted, and everyone thought the Panthers were either going to go quarterback or offensive line, and they didn't go quarterback. They stuck by Sam Darnold, so that adds pressure to him. And again, instead of trying to build for the future and get your quarterback, they went with a corner from South Carolina who not everybody even thought was going to be the top corner off the board. So there's a lot of pressure on both those guys, and I don't know how Panthers fans are feeling. However, I will say that a lot of times in training camp, they ask the quarterbacks to just be aggressive for the sake of it, and it's not a big deal to make mistakes. They just say if you're going to make these mistakes, make them in training camp when it doesn't matter. Like everyone freaked out when Tua threw 5 picks in a practice in heavy wind and rain earlier this year, but the coaches were like, no, we were telling him to just take shots that he wouldn't otherwise take. So not the end of the world, but generally not what you want to see. But I never try not to read too much into training camp headlines, no matter what.
Darnold has the ultimate insurance policy in a lot of ways with the Panthers offense that he never had with the Jets. You can just dump it down to Christian McCaffrey and let him go. I think that is a big security blanket to have as a quarterback that's looking to prove himself. Will be interesting, though, to follow Panthers training camp, I think, more so than usual, just to see if any kind of trend continues here. We're trending out right now. That'll do it for us here on the early game. Thanks for listening, however you did it. Dan Patrick Show coming up next year on 107.5. All right, all right.
All right.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Jordan. We'll do it again tomorrow morning. No afternoon routine for us today. How did yesterday afternoon go overall, Patrick? You all right?
Pretty easy, yeah.
No problems with the phones or anything?
No, phones are fine. Everything was fine technically. Just 7 hours is a lot of radio, a lot of talking in one day.
Yeah, no kidding. 9 more to 800, guys. You know someone who hasn't subscribed to the YouTube channel. Make sure you physically intimidate them to do so.
Yes. And make burner email addresses and new YouTube accounts and subscribe.
You can just ask them. Jen, you're muted right now. Can't quite hear you.
Wouldn't it be scary if 800 people were listening at one time or tuning in?
For sure.
I would love that.
Way to get that whiteboard going today. We'll see you guys bright and early in the morning.